Today I broke up with my girlfriend after she said we should be in an open relationship. But after I did that, literally my entire life fell apart in a way that has seriously messed me up because right now my family's falling apart and I don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out just how bad someone else's relationship can truly get. And this first story definitely takes the cake, so strap in for this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, for a bit of background between me and my girlfriend, our families have a lot of history together. Our parents were college friends, and so they decided to move close to each other. So I've literally known her since we were kids, and we saw each other almost every day, even in the weekends outside of like school days. Our parents had been playing matchmaker, I guess, but I asked her out when we were in high school, and I won't lie, I was very happy with her, and we even took a gap year to just travel together. So last year, I moved into my university campus because it's like a 2-hour commute with the train from my house, and I really just don't want to wake up at 5 in the morning just to get to an 8 o'clock class. Meanwhile, she stayed with her parents and she went to a local college, which was like a 10-minute drive from our neighborhood. And of course, I tried to visit each weekend if I wasn't busy with studying. So 2 weeks ago, while I was visiting, she just seemed a little bit off, like the same way she was when she wanted to give me a present or something like that. So after a while, she eventually tells me what she was hiding, and she brings up having an open relationship. Now, I personally never would be in one, and for me, things like intimacy are supposed to be monogamous. And when I'm hearing this, I'm kind of sitting there in shock because the girl I honestly thought I was going to marry is telling me she wants to sleep around. And at this point, like, I just ask her if she has anybody in mind, and she again becomes a little nervous and admits she has a guy in mind. And this part is what I would definitely do differently, but at this moment, I literally lose my temper. And while I don't really scream, I do shout at her, and I basically called her unfaithful alongside some other stuff, which again was not okay. At this point, she's crying, and I'm like grabbing my jacket to leave. And as she starts apologizing, she starts to like ugly cry, saying that she should have never brought it up and basically pleading for me not to leave, angry with her, and that we should at least talk about it first, but I just straight up leave. I just went back to my campus, which wasn't ideal because my usual 2-hour ride is like a 4-hour ride by nighttime thanks to less trains running. And like by the next day, I'm guessing my mom had found out, and so she's calling me, and at this point, my anger is still at its peak. So I just call my girlfriend some nasty words over the phone, and I call her unfaithful, and my mom flips out on me, which in hindsight, I understand, but like I just hung up on her. Ever since, my mom still calls me and messages me every day, but my breaking point came along when my dad of all people called me and told me to at least hear it out and talk to my girlfriend. And he also mentioned that she wasn't eating well and was skipping her classes. But I honestly think that's some guilt-tripping BS that her parents probably told my parents. I'm just so conflicted because my dad usually is not the type of person to like involve him in these kinds of things, and even he called me. So I'm really conflicted, and I'm wondering if I should actually listen to my dad and give her a chance to like explain herself, or if that's just gonna make things worse for me. Like, how do I know if it's even worth sitting down and talking it out like they want me to? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, before I even begin to jump into this, and trust me, there is so much I could say right now, the original poster has an update that they want to share, and this is exactly what they said. Okay, so as some of you told me in the comment section, I gave my part of the story to my dad, and he replied a few hours later, and to put it shortly, he didn't know even the half of it. And surprisingly, my uncle, so his best friend, and my girlfriend's father also didn't know what was going on. The only two people who actually knew what happened outside of me breaking up with her suddenly was my mom and hers. And what really makes this so crappy is that like 2 hours after that, my mom calls me crying and asks me if I'm happy that my dad basically screamed at her and that I'm potentially ruining 2 marriages over a harmless question. Because from what she told me, my uncle wasn't too happy either being left in the dark. Like at this point, I just hung up on her because seriously, I'm already under a lot of mental stress. And now knowing that 2 long-time relationships are potentially being ruined by me has honestly put me in a situation where I'm really doubting myself. I just tried to focus on like making a project at the internship I'm at, but I think I messed it up, so there's that as well. But then today, I suddenly get multiple calls from my mom in the morning, and to put it in a way that can actually make the video, the girlfriend in this story essentially tried to permanently hurt herself and is now in the hospital, if you know what I mean. I don't even remember most of the conversation, but I just went home as fast as possible, and I spent like maybe $900 on like a taxi, I think. I don't know, it's funny that I remember things like this, but not the conversation about my mom telling me that my girlfriend attempted something really bad. So I guess I'm just mentally ill because apparently my brain doesn't find that too important. So maybe it's justified that I got slapped after being brought to the hospital, because of course my girlfriend's mom did that. So yeah, I don't know, it's just such a mess right now in my head at the moment. I'm sorry I can't get better detailed story, but like I remember being angry and screaming at her after she slapped slap me because like, why am I being blamed for any of this? And I'm just under a lot of stress at the moment. And it just seems like everything is going wrong all at once. Like I've done literally nothing wrong to anybody. So why is this happening to me? Like 4 weeks ago, everything was going fine. Why can't she just like be normal and not ask that stupid question? The one good part is that my dad is at my side. He just brought me back home after my fight in the hospital, and I've been just drinking a lot of beer with him. I love my dad. I'm happy he's on my side, and I honestly just don't know what I would have done without him. Okay, this is some crazy stuff. First off, you are not to blame for your girlfriend hurting herself. Seriously, there's a lot to unpack here, but that first and foremost is not your fault. She made that choice, not you, dude. And yes, it's terrible, and I'm glad she's alive. But seriously, dude, how can anyone possibly be like, this is your fault? What, because you broke up with her and like stormed out after she essentially said, yeah, I want to have an open relationship? Which, by the way, raise your hand if you think that's a terrible idea. I don't know of any relationship that's ever worked out where it's like, let's just sleep around with other people. Like, what are we talking about? That's not a good idea. That's only going to cause like a ton of problems. If anything, it's just like a few steps away from cheating. And if you ask me, like seriously, if you ask me and my hunch, I bet your girlfriend was already cheating on you. And she's like, hey, let's have an open relationship. There just so happens to be this guy that, oh, I don't know, he might be fun. Bull crap, dude. She probably was already sleeping with him. And so her being like, let's be in an open relationship might have been her only way of being like, hey, let me stop feeling guilty about this by you being okay with it, which is messed up. Like that really is sketchy. So no, you're not the jerk. You haven't done anything wrong. And I think breaking up with your girlfriend in that moment is something I definitely would have done. Like, I don't know, maybe I would have like fought back a little bit and been like, are you kidding me? That's not happening. We're not doing anything like that. But I think the way you handled it is completely justified as well. You have every right to be like, I don't want to be with you anymore. See ya. I'm going back to college. But on that same note, since we kind of brought it up, your parents getting involved and not knowing the full details, or your mom knowing the details and still being like, oh, just stay with her. It's fine. It's just a harmless question. Yeah, but what's that question implying, lady? Like, dude, what are we talking about? Like, that in and of itself is so sketchy, and that's so messed up. So yeah, this whole situation is crazy. I'm so sorry you're going through this, and I'm sorry that everyone's picking the wrong side in this scenario, or even attempting permanent, terrible decisions like that. Like, dude, that's not a good idea. That doesn't solve anything, and I'm really glad the girlfriend's alive. So yeah, this really sucks, and hopefully you're able to find a way through it. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for possibly ruining my husband's friend's only chance to get married? Because things right now are getting very spicy, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband has a friend who we will call John for the sake of the story, and John's wife recently passed away after a long and difficult illness. Less than half a month after her death, he started using dating apps and meeting new women. Now, the problem is that John is an alcoholic, he's unemployed, and overall, he's not really a good person if you ask me. His late wife went through a lot because of him, and their relationship was very unhealthy. Now, John lives in another country, but he often visits ours because his late wife was from here. And on top of that, he dates women from here. Well, recently, I visited a close friend of mine who I will call Lucy for the sake of the story. She's been single for a long time and has had difficult experiences with past partners. Because of that, she struggled for a while and avoided dating. During my visit, she had told me that she had met a very charming and kind man and that they were planning to get married soon. And from what she said, I realized she was talking about John. Now, I was happy she started dating again, but I could not let her marry someone like him. So I told her the truth, that he has serious issues, he doesn't work, and he's not someone who would treat her very well at all. I warned her that she could end up in a very bad situation. When I said this, she was shocked, but promised that she would end things with him. A few days later, John called me asking why Lucy wasn't responding, and I said, well, I don't know. But then the next day, he called me again while drunk, accusing me of ruining his chances to get married, and said, oh, you're gonna pay for it. And now my husband is asking me to apologize and fix the situation. He really believes John might change if he marries Lucy, but I really don't believe that. I mean, he didn't even change when his wife was seriously ill. I'm honestly really worried for Lucy, especially since he could take her to another country where she might not know her rights. I believe I did the right thing, but honestly, what do you think? Am I seriously the jerk here? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, your husband's an idiot, bro. Is he really trying to be like, oh yeah, if he marries Lucy, then he's gonna be a better person
person from here on out. Just let him do it. You need to apologize and make things right.
It's like, no, dude, you helped your friend like dodge a train, bro. Like, what is happening right now? The fact that he's an alcoholic and that he's not working and he's just not a good person is already like a big enough red flag itself. But this guy straight up threatened you, dude. He's like, oh, you're gonna pay for it. Meanwhile, your husband's like plugging his ears and going, la 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 la, you gotta like apologize to John, do it right now. And it's like, dude, your wife was just threatened. Like, what are we doing right now? John said he's gonna do something and oh, your wife's gonna pay for it. As if we're in Game of Thrones. Like, what are we doing, bro? This is weird. So like, I'm blown away that your husband's just completely overlooking the biggest red flag on the planet and instead trying to be like, wow, you need to apologize and make things right. But it's like, no, bro, I think I need to make like, I don't know, a police report or something. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk. This is some weird behavior that I really just don't think is healthy. And I seriously think your husband is being so foolish for not taking this seriously. Because at the end of the day, you were just helping out a friend. And honestly, if you know John's not a good fit for her and you clearly know information that she doesn't know, then it's kind of your responsibility to step up and say something before it's too late. My entitled coworker has a habit of snatching things out of employees' hands, especially if he needs it right away. But after he did this to me one too many times, I decided to get some petty revenge, showing him exactly how obnoxious his behavior is by giving him a much-needed taste of his own medicine, resulting in one of the most childish outbursts I've ever seen from a grown man in my life. Here's pretty much how it all went down. Okay, so I have this colleague who I will call George, who's in his like late 50s, who has a nasty habit of taking things out of people's hands without even asking. Stuff like files, memos, communal snacks, etc. I don't believe it's malicious because he does it to literally everybody, and George is a bit spacey. We lovingly call him Goldfish George. He's been here forever and is only a few years away from retirement. His behavior causes some office strife, but people just mostly ignore it. Well, that is except for me. I absolutely hate having things snatched out of my hands. I have no other issue with George. He and I have carpooled together on several occasions, and we get along just great. Well, right up until I open a pack of gum and he grabs a stick before I've even gotten one. I've discussed it with George more than once. I would say stuff like, dude, just ask. I promise I'll give you some if I can. Think of it this way, if I hand you my wallet, that's fine. But if you snatch my wallet out of my bag, that's stealing. Every time we have the conversation, George swears he understands and that he'll stop. But guess what? Then he does it again. Sometimes it's not so bad. If we're in the break room and he grabs a handful of popcorn I happen to be holding, I mean, whatever. But last week, he stole a pen from literally between my fingers while I was filling out a form, all because he had to write down his very important idea. It left a giant pen mark on my form too, by the way, and I had to get a new one. So at this point, I decided that I basically had enough and that the next time he grabs something without asking, I'd simply snatch it right back. Then he'd finally understand how annoying it was. Well, long story short, my plan didn't go very well. Yesterday, I was in the break room eating a big bag of communal chips, and it's here, as expected, that George came in and yanked them from me. Well, I immediately snatched the bag back and I said, ask please, George, we've talked about this. And then with that, I held the bag out to him. He then huffed and grabbed it so aggressively, it split it wide open. It was only like a quarter full, but we had to clean up the mess and George was not very pleased. He told me that I made him feel like a child. And maybe my here's a taste of your own medicine plan was childish. But really guys, I need to know, like, am I the jerk here? Did I really react so out of pocket here? Because right now I am just so confused and I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this outright. I hate George. George sucks. George is like the worst coworker on planet Earth. When is it ever okay to do that to somebody? Like, seriously? Like, this guy's walking around like he's the king of the universe. Oh, I've been here forever. That means I can take your pens if I want to. And then when you give him a taste of his own medicine, he reacts like, nah, give me that. And he like freaks out on you. Like, what are we doing, dude? You just split the bag of chips in half. You literally had a temper tantrum like you're a toddler, all because I returned the favor. And by the way, what you're asking right now is not at all unreasonable. Seriously, no functioning adult should act this way. I don't care who you are. Which kind of leads me to believe that because this guy's been here since, oh, I don't know, since the earth was cooling, and he's worked here pretty much forever, he feels somehow entitled to snatch things out of people's hands right as they're using it, simply because, oh yeah, I've been here forever, I could do whatever I want. And it's so funny because this guy's like, wow, you made me feel like a child, and it's like, dude, you're literally acting like one. You're taking things out of people's hands and you're trying to act like this is okay. Like, what are we doing? And the way he's acting is probably like a fake personality. He's probably got this all worked out where it's like, oh yeah, if I act like I just don't know what's going on and just take things from people, then I can get away with it. But it's like, no, dude, you can't. Your actions now have like serious consequences. And I know if I was in the original poster shoes, I would start doing this all the time. I would start snatching things back like it's nobody's business, dude. There's no reason for this. So no, you're not the jerk. If anything, you're doing God's work in this office, because I guarantee you there's other people around you who feel the same way, but they're just not brave enough to say anything because they just don't want the drama. My dad went through my phone while I was sleeping during a family visit and then confronted me the next morning about my therapy sessions, putting me in a situation that honestly was very uncomfortable because right now I don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on, and yes, things are about to get really weird. Okay, so I went home for a few days to visit family, and honestly, everything was fine. It was a pretty normal visit, and when I went to sleep that night, I had forgotten my phone on the kitchen table, and when I woke up the next morning, my dad sits me down at breakfast and starts asking questions about things that could only have come from my phone itself, specifically from my conversations with my therapist, where I talk about, among other things, my relationship with my parents and things from my childhood that I've been working through. I then asked him directly how he knew any of that, and he just didn't even deny it. He said to me,
I was worried about you and I needed to know you were okay.
And then immediately pivoted to being upset about the content of what I had written to my therapist, as if the method of finding it was not the entire problem here.
He said things like, I can't believe you talk about our family like that to a stranger after everything we've done for you.
And I just sat there trying to figure out which violation to address first, because there were so many stacked on top of each other. So he literally went through my phone and read my therapy conversations, and then he confronted me about my private mental health work as if he was the one who had been wronged here. Well, I left that day and I'm home now, but he's been calling and my mom keeps texting that I'm being dramatic
and that he was just concerned.
And I just don't know how to explain to them that concern doesn't give you the right to do what he did, and that the fact that he genuinely can't see why this was wrong is somehow more upsetting than the thing itself. So honestly, has anyone been through something like this before and actually managed to have a productive conversation with a parent afterwards? Or is that just not possible when they don't think that they did anything wrong? What should I do? Wow, your dad sucks. Seriously. And the fact that your mom's trying to be like,
he is just worried about you. You're being overdramatic. You know, us reading your private thoughts about what we did to you as a kid. What's the big deal?
It's like, dude, you should be showing just a little bit more remorse than this because this is crazy. It's like the entire reason you're going to therapy is because of these people. They're the ones that caused this. So if they're trying to be like,
oh, wow, I can't believe you would talk about our family like that to a stranger.
It's like, no, dude, this isn't a stranger. This is literally the person that's going to help me get over the crap you did to me. So yeah, on all ends, your dad is absolutely at fault. He should not have gone through your phone under the guise of like,
oh yeah, I'm just concerned.
Because guess what, buddy? I have privacy rights just like you do. I'm pretty sure if you pulled up his search history online, you'd probably find some things he wouldn't want you to see. And I guarantee you that if the shoe was on the other foot, he would be freaking out right now. But also, for him to be like, wow, all these things that I did to you, you're telling other people? Like, my God, dude, you gotta be kidding me right now. And the part that pisses me off is that he will probably never be sorry for going through your stuff. He clearly only sees you as like a child still and doesn't see you as a full-fledged adult. And he still thinks that he can go through your stuff and this be somehow okay. Which guess what? It's not. It was never okay. So yeah, I'm so sorry you're going through this because your dad had no right to do that. Like, not even for a second. Am I the jerk for charging my roommate's girlfriend rent after she practically moved in without asking? Because what started as visiting a few nights a week has essentially become her living here full time. And now I'm kind of looking at the numbers and I want her to start paying rent as well, especially if she basically lives here, which has, as you can imagine, caused a lot of drama that seriously I just don't want to deal with. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I have a roommate and we split the rent 50-50. Also, we're in a 2-bedroom apartment, so the place isn't really that big. His girlfriend has basically been staying over more and more. And at first, it was just the weekends, then a few nights a week, but now she's here every single night. She's basically moved in. Her stuff is everywhere. She uses our bathroom, kitchen, and utilities. She's here when I wake up and when I go to bed. And I told my roommate that if she's living here, then she needs to pay rent. But he said, oh, she's just visiting, and that apparently I'm being ridiculous. I then said that visiting is occasional. But at this point, I mean, come on, she lives here now.
He said, okay, well, we're saving money for our own place, and that this is temporary.
So I went back and I calculated that rent should be split 3 ways if 3 people are living here, and that would literally save me like $300 a month. I then told him either she starts contributing or she can't stay here anymore. He then said that I'm being a greedy jerk over his girlfriend visiting. But I said to him, dude, she's not visiting. She's a resident. She's here every single day. He then says that I'm trying to control his relationship and that I'm jealous that he has a girlfriend. But dude, I'm not jealous. I'm tired of subsidizing her living here. I'm paying for space that she is literally using. So I gave him an ultimatum. She either pays 1/3 of the rent starting next month, or she can't be here more than 3 nights a week. And now, as a result, they're both calling me names and saying I'm trying to break them up. His parents even called me saying that I'm being unreasonable. But seriously, am I really out of line here? 3 people really should split rent 3 ways. Like, am I the jerk? Because I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so annoyed. Okay, I always hate dealing with people like this, and just hear me out. It's the kind of person who refuses to address the problem that they're causing, and instead they circle around and they like cherry pick these arguments that are just not happening. They'll talk about how like, oh, well, she's just visiting. You're trying to break us up. You're jealous because you don't have a girlfriend and I do. And it's like, no, dude, none of that's relevant. You know what is relevant? Your girlfriend's staying here every single night. Her crap is probably scattered all over that apartment, dude. I guarantee you she's occupied all the space that you could possibly want. So for this guy to sit there and be like, wow, you're gonna break us up over this. It's like, bro, if your relationship is so fragile that me saying, hey, she's gotta pay rent somehow disrupts the synergy between the two of you, then guess what? You didn't have a good relationship at all. If anything, you've got a girlfriend who's taking advantage of everybody and putting the roommate in a situation where they have to agree to this. Oh, you've gotta let me stay there for free. We're saving up for our own place. Meanwhile, this lady's probably homeless. She's probably got nowhere to go. So she's just squatting here saying, oh yeah, if you at all make me pay rent, then I'm gonna have to break up with you. Like, all of this is ridiculous. This is all so stupid, dude. Because I'm right there with the original poster. Don't even get this twisted. If someone is staying there suddenly full time, then congratulations. It's been more than 30 days, you've officially moved in, and you absolutely have to start paying rent. Because dude, $300 a month can go a long way. Maybe not so much nowadays with the economy, but that's a whole different story. But seriously, that's still $300 extra that I was normally just lighting on fire in my living room. And it also sounds like if this lady paid, then everybody would pay less. So no, you're not unreasonable for asking for rent. This guy's a complete moron for trying to defend this. And it is hilarious in my opinion that this guy's trying to blame his failing relationship on you being like, hey, start paying rent. Because you have nothing to do with that, and any problems they have is theirs to figure out and not yours. My coworker freaks out on me after a meeting as she thought I was wearing AirPods and not listening to her presentation. But after she found out I was wearing hearing aids, everybody in the office turned on her, putting me in a situation where I feel like I'm responsible for my coworker possibly getting fired. Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I was born deaf and pretty much have been wearing hearing aids ever since I was born. My whole life, I have faced people who used to mock me for my hearing. I learned to ignore these people and just don't bother letting it get in my head. And so with that bit of information, here's exactly what happened last week. We recently had a new coworker, let's call her Jane for the sake of the story. She joined our team and she seemed super nice. We then had a team meeting where Jane was presenting something and I was listening to her and trying to understand exactly what was going on. At one point, I asked her to repeat herself because I didn't quite catch on what she was saying. And when I requested this, she seemed a bit annoyed, but she still repeated it. Now, I caught on that she seemed a bit standoffish with me, so I just kept quiet for the rest of the meeting. After the meeting was over, I was chatting up with two of my colleagues in the cafeteria when she walked up to get some stuff. Well, for some reason, she went off on me, saying, why would you wear AirPods at a meeting? That was so disrespectful to me. Now, I didn't respond to her because I'm not a confrontational person, and I really don't like telling people, hey, I'm deaf, please understand my situation. I just prefer to keep my head down and get my work done. So I just let it go and I didn't bother. Well, the same evening, my manager called me into her office and there was Jane sitting there. And I kid you not, she was red in the face. Apparently, people had heard what happened and corrected her. Jane then said that I should have told her I was wearing hearing aids, and now she's become the laughingstock of the department, as in people are talking about it. So I told Jane, well, all you had to do was ask me what I was wearing. And just to let you guys know, my hearing aids are black and they fit inside of my ear, so they actually do look like AirPods. Jane just assumed that's what I had in my ears and then went off on me. My manager said that I should have told Jane to avoid her embarrassment, but I told my manager I can't control what other people talk about, and frankly, I wasn't interested in correcting someone because it's not the first time this has happened, and it certainly won't be the last. As of right now, my manager has limited work between me and Jane, and while some of my colleagues are on my side, others are not. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do because this is all a little bit overwhelming. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update to this story. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so this issue went straight to human resources. I don't know how, I guess people talk and it somehow reached them, but they called me today and I was quite frank with them. I said I'm used to this behavior and it didn't affect me one bit. Now, I did deliberately keep out my conversation with my manager simply because at the moment I'm on a fixed term contract and I have a pretty good chance of converting it into full-time employment under another manager. So I definitely don't want to alienate my current manager. But regardless, human resources was quite horrified that this happened and they said they will be talking to her. And while whatever they decide is completely up to them, I really am not bothered at all. The damage is already done. People don't call Jane Jane anymore for cultural outings, which is your team bonding opportunities. In the past few days, she's been sitting alone at her desk eating her lunch. She has tried to apologize, but I just ignored her and said that I wasn't interested in having this conversation. I think she's trying to provoke me by saying that she didn't know, and my guess is that she's trying to document this or something like that. My plan is simply to avoid any talks with her, and as it is right now, our boss has cut off any work between the both of us. I know people here are probably going to call me a chicken or something like that, but I simply don't want to escalate the situation, and I just want to let it run its course, because I have a lot on the line and I'm trying not to mess it up. Okay, first and foremost, I want to say to the original poster, I completely understand where you're coming from. They mentioned as a side note that apparently because they work in like this European company, they take these matters incredibly seriously. So I'm sure there's going to be some long investigation, which is probably putting a lot of heat on Jane. And dude, if there's anybody at fault here, it is Jane and not the original poster. They're not obligated to save Jane from embarrassment. You know who is responsible for that? Yeah, that's right, it's Jane. She's the one who's responsible for not embarrassing herself, especially by putting her foot in her mouth and being like, wow, I can't believe you wore AirPods during my presentation. Like if she had a problem with that, then bro, go to the manager. That's why there's a chain of command. They then could have easily told you like, hey, those aren't AirPods. She's deaf. She can't hear anything. She's using hearing aids. Like, please don't confront her about this. And then bam, you could still have a career at this place and you could continue doing what you're doing. But instead, she decided to be weird about it and be like, wow, I can't believe you. When holy crap, that's not what's going on, dude. They're not wearing AirPods and like pretending like they're not listening. They have hearing aids in because they literally cannot hear. They're deaf, dude. Like, holy crap, what a complete oversight on Jane's part. And I think the original poster is 100% right. I bet you Jane's trying to goad like the original poster into making some kind of like negative reaction. So there's like equal blame in some way, and that way neither of them get like fired or something like that. So the fact that they're just choosing not to talk to them and just keep their head down and do their job and go for that promotion, like that in my opinion is super smart, and it's better just to avoid it in this scenario than to confront Jane and have some kind of like back and forth and be like, oh, I win, I prove my point. Because sometimes it's not about proving a point. It's about getting the job, getting the contract, and getting that full-time employment. Especially in this economy, bro. Like, I completely get that notion. Because I bet Jane's under a crazy amount of pressure from human resources, and she is simply trying to save her job at all cost. So avoiding her is a brilliant solution, and it will probably help you keep your job in the long run. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My coworkers secretly planned a New Year's Eve party with all of the office except for me, putting me in a situation where I really feel unappreciated and rejected in a way that's completely devastating and very hurtful. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things off, today it came up that one of my coworkers talked with my boss about a New Year's party. And when I heard this, I asked out loud, wait, what party? There was then a long pause in the air. They then explained that there was a super last-minute party that got texted to someone on the team the day of New Year's Eve. And that person forwarded the invite around to apparently everybody except me. Because according to them, it wasn't a secret or anything like that. But it's like, okay, well, how's I supposed to know? When I heard this, I almost cried right on the spot. I've been pulling 60-hour work weeks. I was one of 2 people physically in the office on New Year's Eve. In fact, I worked 9 hours that day. I work in fashion, so I had to run a fitting that took 4 hours, while 2 people on the team videoed in from home. And no one even thought to ask if I wanted to go. I had to play it off in the moment, so I didn't make things awkward or hurt this person's feelings, but it really hurt, like a lot. So sure, it wasn't a secret, but clearly it's not public knowledge either. I finally let myself cry when I got home. It made me feel so unappreciated. I don't think it was malice, like truly, I really don't, but man, it really hurts, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I need to say to the original poster, first and foremost, I have been in your shoes. You have coworkers around you that you're just trying to work and like get stuff done with, and you find out the hard way that you're the odd man out. So as someone who's been there and absolutely seen the extent of this, if I was in your shoes, I would 100% be finding a new job. Like that's what I would do personally. Obviously, you know your situation way better than I do, so finding a new job is not going to be easy and it's probably going to take a long time. But I know for a fact, the second I found another place to work, my life became so much better, and genuinely, I felt so much happier. I found coworkers who could actually be my friend. I was able to like get out of that weird funk of like, oh, nobody likes me and nobody appreciates me. And I was able to move on and be like, wow, this is what a good working environment is supposed to feel like. So truly, I really hope this works out for you, and I'm so sorry that they mistreated you in this way, because this really sucks and you don't deserve to feel like this. Am I the jerk for not fulfilling a Venmo request after we had a random guy stay with us at our Airbnb one night? Because honestly, I feel like I deserve a discount after this guy crashed for free, while my boyfriend thinks I should just pay the full amount and just be done with it. Because right now I'm honestly still frustrated by this and I just don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this is kind of dumb, but like, hear me out. Last weekend, I went on a trip with my boyfriend and his 3 friends to go snowboarding. So there were 5 of us in total, with 4 guys and me being the only girl. We all decided to split an Airbnb, so it came out to about $300 each. And also, I'm completely fine paying for my share of the Airbnb and the gas and pretty much anything else that comes along. However, the first day we went out, we met this random on the gondola, and he happens to be a few years younger than all of us and goes to the same college my boyfriend and his friends went to. He then asked us if he could ride with us because he came up solo and he's currently car camping the weekend. Well, they all said it was fine, so he ended up spending the whole day with us, which seriously is completely fine. Like, I don't care. We are just snowboarding after all. Then he comes to dinner with us after boarding, which is also fine, I guess. And then he offers to give one of the guys a ride to the Airbnb while the rest of us take the shuttle. And as they do that, they give him the door code to our Airbnb, which really made me super uncomfortable because hello, we don't even know this guy. Like, he might seem chill, but who knows what he can be capable of. And then by the time we get there, he's already inside and in the shower. And I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on? Like, again, who even is this guy? Oh, and by the way, throughout the entire day, both my boyfriend and myself have been expressing our discomfort to having this random come to the Airbnb, and the other guys just kept saying, oh, it's chill, he's chill, it's not a big deal, and just completely ignoring us. Eventually, we're all just hanging around in the living room, drinking and watching movies, and then one of the guys and the random decide they're gonna go out to the bars. No one else is really down to go with them, so they leave and then come back at like 2 in the morning, and the random guy crashes on the couch. The next day, he wakes up before anyone else and leaves really fast and then meets us up on the mountain again later. Well, after the trip, they send me a Venmo request for the Airbnb, but it is still $300 split between 5 people. Well, I told them that I'm not paying until they figure out how much that random owes us for staying one night. Like, am I being crazy? I was uncomfortable the whole time because of this random dude they invited, and now they expect me to pay for his free stay? He chose to come up in car camp. I don't care if it takes off like $20 or if it takes off like $5 from my total. I'm not paying for this random dude. My boyfriend says that it doesn't matter that much because we would have paid the same amount if he wasn't there anyways, which makes sense and makes me wonder if I'm being dramatic about this, but I still think it's not fair that he gets a free stay at our Airbnb. I told them I will pay for the first night split between 5 people, but the second night I'm only splitting it between 6 people. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because honestly, I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, in my opinion, and I might be wrong here, so please let me know in the comment section, but I really do think the original poster is overreacting here. You were already gonna pay like $300 for your total. And sure, him coming over unannounced and like getting a door code and like being in the shower already before you guys get there, that is really weird and that would cross a lot of boundaries for me. But to expect any kind of like refund, in my opinion, is just definitely not gonna happen. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from, but if you really did want to split it between 6 people on the second night, then that should have been established that night right then and there with that guy. So since it's after the fact and it's kind of like, okay, we're home and I have to kind of pay for the Airbnb I stayed at, expecting any kind of discount or refund, I think is just completely out of line. So yes, I do think you're being just a little bit overdramatic, and I do think that if you don't pay the full amount that you agreed to in the first place, this is only going to cause problems and it's just going to be annoying to deal with. Did I overreact by dumping my girlfriend after she made a joke about my past that truly was off limits and crossed a huge boundary for me? Because right now she's saying that I'm being way too sensitive over a harmless joke, despite the fact that what she joked about is no laughing matter for me. Because right now I'm still so hurt by this that I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old male, and when I was in high school, I was bullied by a group of girls and it got physical. Their favorite thing to do was to kick me in the private parts, if you know what I mean. This wasn't just one time and it wasn't a prank. It happened over and over again in hallways and stairwells when teachers were just blatantly not around. I would drop, I would get nauseous, I would feel dizzy. Sometimes I couldn't even stand straight. In fact, there were days after where everything down there ached constantly. Walking and sitting were painful, and I was genuinely scared something was permanently messed up. My parents even took me to an urgent care once because the pain didn't go away. It really stuck with me. So because of that, I have a very clear boundary. Jokes or any kind of like intention about doing doing that is not okay with me. And I've told every single partner this, including my girlfriend. Well, last week we were joking on the couch. I teased her about leaving dishes in the sink, and then she laughed and said, "Oh, careful or I'll kick you down below." And then she laughed and said she was kidding. Well, when she did that, I immediately shut down, and I told her she knows that's not funny to me. Well, instead of apologizing, she just rolled her eyes and said I need to relax, and that I can't still be traumatized by high school. She said that every guy gets hit down there and I should be over it by now. But honestly, that hit me way harder than any joke. It felt like being told my pain never mattered. I told her I don't feel safe with someone who knows my history and still jokes about it and then dismisses me, to which she said I was being dramatic and using my past to control her humor. Well, after it was all said and done, I broke up with her that night. Now she's telling people I dumped her over a harmless joke, and some friends agree and say I just threw away a good relationship because I'm being too sensitive. But to me, it wasn't the joke. It was knowing my boundary, crossing it anyways, and then acting like I'm weak for reacting. So I need to know, am I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I'm still very hurt and I don't know what to do. Okay, I want to say that you absolutely dodged a train, brother. Holy crap. Get out while the getting's good. Like, good lord. Let me put it this way. Your girlfriend is not only the jerk in this situation, but she's also a terrible person. You literally shared something that was very deeply personal and very scary for you, and she not only said, "Oh, you need to get over it," but she also tried to act like you were the problem when you said that's not funny. Because guess what? Some things are not a joke. Some things in life just definitely need to be off limits, and this is one of those things. So for her to intentionally trigger you like that and then literally try to victim blame you is just crazy to me, which in my opinion is all the evidence you would ever need to see that, yeah, this lady doesn't care about you. She is not a good person and she is a terrible girlfriend, because if she did care about you, she would immediately apologize and say, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it like that." Like, good lord, I think if I did something like that to my girlfriend, I would be backpedaling hard. I would be like, "I'm so sorry, I did not mean to joke about that." Because yeah, some things are not a laughing matter. Like, this is serious. This guy went through high school being literally assaulted every single day. You can't just casually joke about that and expect everyone to be okay with it. So no, you're not the jerk, you're not overreacting, and in my opinion, this is a massive betrayal of trust. And I think you'll be a lot better off away from this lady. My mom and grandma are trying to control my future by forcing me to go into medicine and using money as leverage, putting me in a situation that has ruined my mental health and all of my motivation. Because right now, I really just don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 17-year-old male and I'm currently in the process of looking and starting to apply to colleges, but there is a huge drama between myself and my mom's side of the family in terms of what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go. My mom and grandma both desperately want me to stay in my home country and study medicine, which is not something I'm interested in or even good at in the first place. They forced me to take chemistry and biology while I was heavily struggling with both of those subjects before. I thankfully have above average grades and would most likely get into some of the programs they want me to get into in my home country. However, I don't want to be a doctor, and I can barely deal with my mom and grandma currently, as they are both very entitled and kind of horrible people. They've done so many terrible things to me, including only allowing me to fly to the United States for one day for my grandma's funeral, and they also forced me to do things that I really don't want to do. My grandma even said that she's going to disown me on multiple occasions if I don't give in. Now, they definitely have the money and funds to send me to any college I'd like at home, and the inheritance would set me up for life. On the other hand, my dad, who is an American, and his side of the family, is fully supportive of what I want to do, and they are the nicest people that I know. They, however, do not have the money to send me to any private universities. The two options are basically, if I move to the United States, I will be going to community college right away and possibly transferring to a better school later on, and then just getting into debt. The other one is that my dad and I move and live there for like 1 year while also working at the same time and get in-state tuition to my dream school and go into debt that way. My dad is saying that I should try and get my mom to pay for college in my home country and then just move later, but that includes doing medicine, which is incredibly hard and very long, and I may not be able to move to the United States until I'm like 30 years old. I honestly just want to get away from the toxicity and everything my mom and grandma has done to me over the last 17 years of my life. I honestly do not know what to do, and I'm scared of the future. This has taken a huge toll on my mental health and my grades, and I don't even know if I can deal with my mom and grandma for another year, let alone another 10. I'm so exhausted and I'm depressed all the time. And on one hand, I don't want to go into debt, but also I don't know if I can deal with my mom much longer. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think it's really infuriating that your parents are trying to like force you into one particular career because your mom and grandma are just completely out of line here. Like they can't make you become a doctor. That's like some crazy level of narcissism that I just cannot understand. It's not like you're going to go and become a doctor just because they're making you do it. Like you're going to be miserable the entire time. This is going to tank your mental health and you're probably going to hate your life moving forward. So in my opinion, and I can only speak for myself, if I had the chance to live with my dad in America and go to community college and like transfer over or like work for a year and get like in-state tuition, personally, I would take that route any day of the week because at least then I have some control over my life and what I want to do. And the original poster has it right. Like, holy crap, medicine and becoming a doctor, that takes so long. You're stuck in that pretty much until you finish and you have no choice but to do it. But if I was in your shoes, I would at least go to the United States and be like, okay, at least I have some options and I can now figure out what I want to do. Because being forced to do so just because your grandma and your mom demand it, regardless of if they have money or not, in my opinion, is incredibly controlling and just not okay. Am I the jerk for telling my son to say something completely brutal to this one kid who was bullying him constantly during a sports camp? Because after it was all said and done, this bully completely broke down crying, resulting in me kind of feeling bad and wondering if I made a mistake by encouraging my kid to do this. Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it all happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my son is 11 years old and he's been dealing with a medical condition for a few years now. Without getting too specific, it does affect his appearance and he's pretty self-conscious about it. He's a tough kid though, and most people at his school are supportive. This summer, I signed him up for a sports camp because his doctor cleared him and he really wanted to go. The first few days were fine, but then this group of boys started targeting him. The ringleader started calling him names related to his condition and got the others to join in. My son asked them to stop, but they simply wouldn't. I then went to the camp counselor and I complained, and he said he would handle it, but guess what? Nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. They started hiding his stuff and making jokes whenever he walked by. And by the way, the counselor was some college kid who clearly didn't want to deal with it. My son wanted to stay because he made a few real friends there who actually stood up for him. So I decided to give him something to fight back with. I happen to know the ringleader's mom recently lost her job and their family is struggling financially. It's not public knowledge, but I heard it through a mutual connection. So I told my son that the next time this kid comes at him, he should tell him that his mom got fired because she's a loser and that's why they can't afford nice things. And yeah, I know that wasn't a good thing to do, but you know what? I was angry and I was tired of watching my kid come home upset. Well, you know what? My son used it and it worked. The bully completely broke down crying and left my son alone after that. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm kind of feeling bad and I'm not sure if I made a mistake here. Okay, first off, I'm going to say straight up, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I want to explain why. I spent most of my childhood being bullied in a way that was just completely unfair and very toxic. We're talking like horrible nicknames and horrible things said to me, people talking badly about me, etc. So to say that I know exactly what your son is going through would be an understatement. And with that in mind, I think what you did is absolutely one of those situations where it needed to be done. Because you did everything right. You talked to the counselor, your son told him to stop. I'm sure he probably tried to make some kind of distance between him and the kid, but still nothing changed. So for me, at that point, all the gloves are off and it's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. Which means if this kid's gonna terrorize me, then congratulations. I'm gonna fire back with one of the worst things he probably doesn't want anybody knowing about. Namely that his mom lost his job and they're tight for money, which is also a horrifyingly embarrassing thing as a kid that he probably doesn't want anybody knowing about. So in my opinion, I think this kid absolutely had it coming. I would not feel guilty about this for a second, because if no one else is gonna do anything, then it is absolutely time for your son to step up and say something. And if that makes the bully cry, then congratulations, he got a taste of his own medicine, and he can hopefully learn his lesson and not treat people like that again in the future. My toxic friends trashed my house after I asked them to house sit while I was recovering from a massive surgery. But when I got back and I saw the state of my home, I was stunned at the horrifying mess and disgusting state they left it, putting me in a situation where I was truly taken advantage of while I was at my weakest point. And now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I was away from my home for a month for a planned surgery plus recovery. This was a very intensive surgery. I'm also about 6 weeks out right now and I can barely walk. At the last minute, my hired pet sitter canceled on me and I was desperate to find a replacement. So I offered that money to a friend who was having housing difficulties. She was to take care of my house and my pets, so I let her stay in my home while I was gone, and I even bought $300 worth of groceries for her. The agreement was for her to take care of my kittens and fish and to have the house tidied up before I got home. My car would be there in case of an emergency, but otherwise please avoid driving it. It is a lease and I have an allotment of miles I can drive before I have to pay extra. Well, after I was admitted into the hospital, hospital, she moved her cat in and also her boyfriend. When I got home, my house was an absolute disaster. Dishes were piled up in the sink that took me 4 loads just to clear. The dishes and leftover food were scattered all around the house. There was cat vomit left to dry on the floor, bags of cat litter clumps in the hallway, half-full trash bags left in the entryway, stains on the couch, the floors, and countertops, and everything was just completely filthy. There was even a 3-foot circle of wood ash on the floor around the fireplace. They used up about 80% of my winter wood pile, so now I don't have enough wood to last me the rest of winter. So here I am, post-surgery and barely able to walk, scrubbing the floors, doing dishes, taking out the trash, sweeping and mopping and vacuuming, but there's only so much I can physically do before I'm in massive pain. So now, and you probably guessed it, I'm now in massive pain every night since that first night of doing too much, trying to clean up after this person. And it hasn't even been a week. She tried to negotiate with me to stay at my house for several more weeks or longer, just so she could help with the kids and take care of me. But it's like, no, not a chance. But I'm also so weak right now that I had to play it as tactfully as I could. What resulted was her staying an extra 2 days, her useless boyfriend sitting on my couch, eating my food, watching me clean up and not offering to help, whereas she at least cooked food for me like the next day. I then called my 2 best friends, a married couple, and I asked them to come by to ensure that these 2 left my house when the lift arrived to take them home. I told them hours beforehand to pack up and be ready to leave, but they waited until 10 minutes prior to finally start packing, and the Lyft driver had to wait a half hour for them. As they were leaving, the boyfriend was questioning my friend and asking him how long they were staying, but thankfully he gray-rocked with excellence. The boyfriend was all, "I'm just concerned about her and I want to make sure that she has the help that she needs, and I'll be back to help out as much as I can." Well, that jerk did absolutely nothing to help out and made everything way harder on me. As soon as they were gone, my real friend sent me to bed and helped clean up my kitchen and living room, and my kids also helped out. But even with that, I would still end up having to spend time over the next several days cleaning up after them. I still haven't tried to remove the couch stains, but at least my son vacuumed all the crumbs and such out of the cushions and cleaned up the fireplace. But then, to make matters worse, I discovered my car. I had given her permission for 2 non-emergency trips into the city, which was maybe about 30 miles away. She also admitted to using my car a little bit while I was gone, but I was too weak to make a fuss about it. Well, it turns out they drove my car over 1,100 miles. These parasites took absolute advantage of me while I was at my weakest. So today, I sent a text requesting they pay me back the 30 cents per mile of unauthorized use, which adds up to about $255. I'll either get some money back for my troubles, or I'll scare them away so badly that I'll never have to see them or deal with them ever again. Either way, it's a win for me because these people absolutely suck. Okay, I want to take note of something that someone said in the comments section, but oh my gosh, you had better change your locks like today, because I would not put it past these people to get a copy of your house key. Like, holy crap, these people suck. They really did take advantage of you. Never mind the fact that they ruined your house and they just completely trashed the place, but also they drove your car 1,100 miles. Like, holy crap, did they take a trip around the state and back? Like, what were they doing? So yeah, this is some crazy behavior, and I hope you realize that these people are not your friends, because these are not the actions of people who care about you. These are the actions of people who are selfish and self-centered, and the fact that they would be welcomed back in any way, shape, or form is just laughable and also incredibly insulting. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My psycho mom was one of the worst influences I've ever had to deal with growing up. And even now into adulthood, she still treats me like garbage and still yells at me all the time. But after trying to negotiate with her and get through to her in some kind of way, she always falls back into her same routine of screaming at me. And now I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's going on. So I think it's time for me to finally tell some things about her, because I feel so overwhelmed and I've been keeping this inside me for so long. And I simply must write it down and put it somewhere, or else I will go insane. To start things off, my parents divorced when I was about 12 years old, and I was kind of relieved because my father was very difficult too, but at least he wasn't in my everyday life anymore. I always preferred my mother, but when we started living alone, namely me, my brother, and her, that's when things really began. For some time, we had a babysitter, mostly for my brother, but the majority of the time we were alone and I had to be the parent, which would be okay for me if she didn't literally sabotage me all the time. Now, my little brother did what little kids do. He would just straight up disobey obey me. But regardless, she told me that I had to make sure he was well fed, did his homework, and had good hygiene. And every time I tried to do any of that, he started being difficult. So I started giving out punishments, like saying I was going to take the TV remote away, or I was going to take the tablet or his phone. But instead, he really wouldn't care about any of that. And if anything, he would be more on guard about his phone. So every time I took any of it, he locked himself in his room and would call mom. In fact, they called on average for like an hour, but often even longer, where he complained the entire time and told his side of the story. Then she would call me and immediately start screaming and scolding me. She would say to me,
"Who do you think you are? How dare you take things away from him? What gives you the right? You are not a parent."
When she calmed down a little bit, I started telling what really happened from both sides, but that always lasted a maximum of like 5 minutes, because then she would tell me,
"Oh, customers are here. I've got to take care of something. I'll call you later."
which, by the way, that rarely ever happened. So he got an hour of her time to tell her how terrible I am. Meanwhile, I barely explained the situation. Then she would question why he has unfinished homework or why he smells bad. And I'm not saying I was better than my brother. I mean, sometimes I started things on purpose as like a way of messing with him, but I did really try to do my best. And this was our normal routine for at least a year. Then my mom brought home a man who is now our stepdad, and he is awesome, even though we grew a little bit apart because I lived alone for about 3 years. Things were okay for about a month when the two of them decided that she will stay home to take care of us while he worked. Often I came home from school tired because sometimes I would have trouble there. It was thankfully nothing that extreme, but my troubles only got worse when I got home. In fact, this one time I didn't even open the entrance to the apartment building before I could already hear screaming from the window. So when I got home, she switched from screaming at my brother over to me because, good lord, I clearly did something wrong. Like, I didn't even get a chance to take my shoes off. In fact, there was screaming every day and it was really draining. Then they bought a restaurant at the end of 2019, and I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. The restaurant was going fine before the crap storm that hit the world, and that started stressing my parents out. When they came home, they would see a few dishes and start saying,
"Well, I see that you did nothing all day,"
and literally just picking anything to start an argument, like nothing was ever enough. I was basically the family therapist, so when our parents argued, I was the one resolving the issue and often took my stepfather's side because I know her bullcrap. But then when she argued with me, he would never defend me, which led to enabling her bullcrap even further and thinking that she was right. When we go for groceries, we would have man talks, and somehow my mother at the time always knew what I said. This angered me so much, and I felt so betrayed because he really was the one sane person that I could talk to, but then would turn around and do things like that against me. So naturally, I did stop sharing with him, even though eventually we did find some common ground. And you know what? I didn't even share with my mom for even longer because she would always use what I shared as like ammunition in arguments, and even had the audacity to try and be sad and say stuff like,
"My son doesn't share with me anymore,"
all while crying her eyes out. And it's like, yeah, right, you idiot. Around this time, she also started being really insulting towards us, saying things so awful that I don't even know how to translate them. And it's ironic because she always told us not to insult family. Oh, and on top of that, she also got pregnant. Charming, isn't it? So a woman in her early 40s getting pregnant is a cocktail for disaster because, my God, everything became 1,000 times worse. She sometimes stayed home and terrorized us from morning all the way until the time we went to sleep. Now, the restaurants around us were closed, but we stayed open for deliveries to have at least some kind of money coming in. Also, my stepfather is an incredible cook who traveled the world and now had to be alone in there cooking and delivering and cleaning, and I honestly pitied him so much that he got involved in such chaos. He then told me that not so long ago, if they didn't have a child, he would have left. Also, after restaurants got opened, they made me go work for them,
saying to me, "Come on, you will help out the family and make money."
But I had a really low hourly wage, and they didn't even pay me the half of what I made that day. Most of the time, I was there for free, which would be fine if they didn't treat me like an absolute piece of trash. So 15-year-old me had to go there after school and on weekends. I had to bust my butt off, get treated horribly, and then get home by about 1 o'clock in the morning with no money. And despite the fact that I'd saved almost $1,000 in our currency during the 6 months of being there, my mom ended up taking it all because she needs it and had access to my teenage bank account. It was horrible, and that started about 6 years ago. I'm now 20 years old, and I feel like it was literally yesterday. I wanted to believe that when my youngest brother was born, she would eventually calm down, but postpartum psychosis came and it got even worse. And since then, she stayed like that. Also, she would constantly say that she was going to send me to my father, which was a super normal veiled threat that she would throw my way pretty much all the time. She would kick me out of the house regularly, but not before taking my clothing and throwing them on the floor of my room and stomp on them. So it's extremely stressful living every day, not knowing if tomorrow I will have a place to be. But then some beautiful news came along. They decided that it will be better to return to our home country and that I will stay here to continue studying. They told me me that a month before it would happen, and I got so happy. Finally, a hope for freedom and peace. And despite that, she still continued her behavior. Well, 2 days before they were leaving, she kicked me out again and said, "I don't know where you will go, but you will not stay here." And she always still looked for me after she did this, but even still, this eventually sparked the happiest 3 years of my life. She continued to pay rent, and at this point, I think I need to get something out of the way. I'm not ungrateful. In fact, I've been thinking about all of this so many times, and I've been putting myself in other shoes forever, and I understand that constant stress, worry, sadness, a failing business, etc. have extreme mental toll on a person, and I'm very grateful that we always had a roof, some food, and some clothing on our backs. But my God, I can't excuse this behavior because it really affected me so much. Ever since then, we only had contact when she called, and I didn't really want to go no contact because I just don't want to hate anybody. And also, yes, a little bit because she was paying the rent. They always came for Christmas, mainly for a job that my mom has at the Christmas market, and it was always so uncomfortable for me because they are chain smokers, and the whole house immediately has the most disgusting odor, plus opening up a window is not an option because it's way too cold. They're also extremely loud, and they don't care what time it is. That's combined with them going to sleep at around 1:30 in the morning, and on top of that, my mom wakes up at 3 o'clock to eat. In the past, I've been accused by teachers and classmates multiple times in elementary school that I smoke cigarettes. And that's funny because to this day, I've never done anything like that, not one single time. And it's so sad that I don't know who my neighbors are, but everybody knows us. Now, what truly made me write all of this up and share this with the internet? Well, my mother's with me for a month, and the other day we had an argument. It went exactly how it always does. She screams and I scream a little, and then while I try to explain something, she tells me how pointless I am and leaves the conversation and continues to scream at me from the kitchen. In fact, every time she called me, it always ended in an argument. But now that it was in person, I got flashbacks. So I went for a walk because it was too much. For context, I recently got into manifestation, and I tried it on my walk. She then called me shortly afterwards, apologizing and saying she doesn't want to argue, which is something she has never done before like this. When we lived together, she always waited a day and then came to my room telling me, "Oh, you know I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I would do anything for you." But then, like clockwork, she would do it again that same day. Often, she didn't even bother to have the nice talk and just let it pass. Even when we lived apart and argued on the call, she never called back to sort things out, so this change of pace kind of gave me hope. Yesterday, we had a surprisingly pleasant, deep conversation about past events, and it didn't start like that, but it definitely ended way deeper than I expected. It started by me telling her how many stories I've read about this, specifically online. She then got defensive, but then actually took accountability. I was genuinely in disbelief. At one point, I told her that in a conversation I had with a friend about similar things, I Googled something and there was an article named something like, "Oh, the types of thinkers in the world." And one type that caught my eye was the emotional thinker. I then told her that I think she is an emotional thinker, and she agreed. In fact, she told me how much she wants to change it, and I believed her. I also told her that I'm a rational thinker and that I do separate my feelings from the situation, and I made sure to explain it to her like a 5-year-old, stating that it doesn't mean I don't have emotions, and that only psychopaths would be that extreme. And I really had to explain this just so she wouldn't try to use this against me in the future and tell me that I don't have emotions or something like that. Because yeah, she's done stuff like that in the past. Well, today she told me to go check up on my brother, who usually just rots away on his iPad. Well, while she was working, I got told by her how I destroyed my brother because I let him brain rot on the iPad and I don't play with him, even though I do play with him, and she's the one who's done this. She literally doesn't give him any attention and just lets him brain rot all day while she smokes and watches movies in the kitchen. But it's like, okay, sure, I raised him this way. So I go and check up on him and I start in a brotherly way to playfully mess with him, but he doesn't like it, so I stopped. And after trying to get his attention and play with him just a little bit, my mom eventually storms into the room and starts screaming at me that I'm torturing him and that I'm just like my father, while also throwing in a bunch of personal insults as well. Now, with all things considered, and especially after the talks we literally just had, I managed to keep it together and I tried to explain the situation, that I was trying to get his attention and see something on the shelf, but she once again just didn't listen like always and instead screamed through my attempts to explain anything. Well, after years of this and after dealing with this for so long, something finally snapped inside of me. I then started screaming at her, and this time I didn't back down, and so did she. Because of that, she insulted me even more and described how much of a horrible person I am, and this got really intense. It was after this that it really made me remember all of the things that I have a problem with when it comes to my mother. She's dumb as rocks, she takes everything personally, even things that just don't even concern her. She can't comprehend something hypothetically. All of her actions and thinking are driven by her emotions. She argues and drives everybody away, but somehow it's always everybody else's fault. And and she'll always double back and pretend like she cares, only to then turn around and do the exact same thing over and over again. I told her multiple times that she is the only person in my life that I have a problem communicating with, but she simply refuses to accept anything that I'm saying. If I'm being honest, I'm just done with her. I'm tired, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is a doozy because this is describing a very specific circumstance that just sounds like a nightmare. It's moments like this too that make me realize, oh man, I had a great childhood compared to this person. They had a rough go around, whereas I did not have it nearly as bad as they did, which I gotta be honest is really sad. And by the way, I know exactly the kind of person you're talking about here, where they take everything so literally and they don't know how to joke around, and how they literally refuse to take responsibility for any of the actions they make. And if they do take responsibility, it's only for an hour before they start screaming at you all over again. I've dealt with people like this at varying degrees in my life, but man, I've never dealt with it like the original poster has. So I'm truly so sorry that you're still having to deal with this. I know for a fact my first instinct would be okay, I gotta move away from these people. This is so not good for my mental health. These people suck. Nothing I do is ever good enough. They're always gonna complain about something. They're always gonna be upset about something I did or didn't do. It is literally never enough, and that is so obnoxious. So hopefully for the original poster, you're able to find some kind of peace in your life, but more specifically, you're able to find peace away from your crazy mother, because what you described is not normal, and I'm so sorry that you have to live through that. Would I be the jerk for screwing over my group project by submitting the assignment early, knowing that they literally contributed nothing, but this would also result in them failing and probably not graduating college? Because right now, I'm kind of on the fence about doing this, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm in my final year of university, and we have this group project to submit in January. And my group consists of 5 people, including myself. Now, from the very beginning of us starting this group, they have contributed basically nothing. And another group member and I had picked up the work of 3 people. Let's call them Adam, Sam, and Jake for the sake of the story. So now that submission time is near, I'm thinking if I should just submit the group project early without letting them know, which definitely would result in them failing if they don't submit it at the same time. And for reference, we all have to submit individually. Throughout the assignment time frame, I've emailed lecturers and had talks with the group multiple times, but nothing has come of it. No work has been done on their end. What's worse is that in that time frame, we've had weekly stand-up presentations where we would present our progress on the group work that we have done to the rest of the class, and Sam and Jake had turned up to the presentation about once or twice. And keep in mind, this project started in October of 2025, and we're now literally in January. They probably used every excuse under the sun: family issues, a fever, a cold, face infection, and honestly, I wish I was joking about that last one. Also about being out of town. I even caught one of them playing Grand Theft Auto on their Discord status after they said they were on a train going home to London. While I will say they haven't done completely nothing, what they have contributed can also barely be considered anything at all. So now I'm wondering if I should just submit the presentation for myself and not tell them about it, which would cause them to either get a capped off grade or fail the assignment altogether, which also, by the way, might cause them to be unable to graduate. So would I be the jerk if I did this? Because right now I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think it would be a bad idea to do that because holy crap, why not just talk to your professor and be like, hey, the rest of my group is not doing any of the work. Can I please be graded individually? Because let's face it, this is not the first group assignment where certain people in the group aren't pulling their weight. And I think if you at least tell the professor what's going on and how you feel, you can at least give them a heads up and say, hey, here's what's going on. None of these people have done anything, and then go from there. I would also absolutely talk to Adam, Sam, and Jake one more time and be like, guys, you need to do some work. It can't just be on me and the other person in our group. You're literally not contributing and it's making me go crazy. This is absolutely unacceptable. Because trust me, I get it. They're not pulling their weight and you're frustrated. But what you're describing is that if they don't get any kind of grade on this assignment, they might fail and not be able to graduate. And that is a serious thing. That is a serious decision you're making there. And if you want to make enemies for life, then sure, go ahead and do that, I guess. But I think there's got to be some kind of mercy rule here or something. I would be trying to figure out what they're doing or seeing hey, are you even a part of the class anymore? Because there are some serious ramifications that come along with this, especially since you're trying to submit it before the due date. Apparently the original poster clarified and they said, oh yeah, it's not due till the 20th. And when you compare this to when the post was made, it does give them a few days to get their act together. So yeah, I think you would be the jerk by submitting this early and being oh well, too bad. Looks like you're gonna fail, because that is a train wreck that I'm telling you, you don't want to deal with. And I really think reaching out to them one last time as well as your professor and explaining exactly what's going on would be better for you in the long run than trying to get back at them by submitting it early. Because I really think that's going to end poorly and it's just not going to go the way you're thinking. My toxic manager refuses to promote me to a position that I was absolutely qualified for, choosing instead to give it away to a coworker who is probably the most toxic woman in our office, as she is constantly stabbing people in the back and causing a lot of division in our company. So after losing this promotion that I was absolutely qualified for, I got some much needed revenge by quitting my job on the spot and giving them next to no notice, putting them in a position where they're going to be scrambling to find someone to replace me because my God, did I do a lot at that office. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been at my job for over 3 years now, and in that time, I've trained new hires, I've mentored the younger staff, I've taken on extra projects, and I've built a solid reputation. In fact, I have more certifications than most of the management team, and I've been recognized multiple times for my work. A few months ago, a management position opened up. This role almost never becomes available, so it was a big deal. So I applied immediately. I was the most qualified person on the team by far, and I had the experience and the credentials and the seniority. So basically, everybody assumed I was going to be getting it. About 8 months ago, they hired a new girl who I will call Tracy for the sake of the story. She had no background in our field, her degree was in something completely unrelated, and this was her first job in the industry. Ever since Tracy started, she's been forming little groups that exclude people and basically has been talking behind people's backs. She created so much division on the team that it feels like high school now. Well, she also applied for the same position that I did. The job listing required at least 2 years of experience and over a year on a similar team. She had neither, and in fact, I'm the one that trained her when she started. But despite all of that, when it came down to it, they gave her the job. I called my manager to ask what happened, and he actually got defensive and told me that he didn't want to talk about it. He said I should think it over and that they could discuss it when I get back from vacation, and then he hung up the phone on me. After that, Tracy started freezing me out, leaving me off meeting invites, talking about me in the team, setting me up to look bad, and every single time I brought it up, I was told I needed to work on getting along with my new manager. Well, I had another job offer from a family member's company a while back. It had better pay, a flexible schedule, and I turned it down because my manager begged me to stay and said opportunities were coming. Well, they certainly came all right, but just not for me. So you know what? I'm taking the job. I'm telling them this week that I'm done at the end of the month, and honestly, I'm not giving them any kind of notice. So with all things considered, am I the jerk for doing this? Am I in the wrong for leaving without giving any kind of heads up? Because right now, I'm still very frustrated over this entire situation, and I just don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is so crappy. Here's what actually happened. These people literally said, oh, they're so good at training and doing all this other like lower level stuff. Let's never promote her and have her do this for the rest of her life, all while stringing her along in the process. It'll be great. Like, bro, I hate managers who do that because it's like, dude, at least be honest with me. If I'm not right for the job and I'm not what you're looking for, then dude, just tell me. Give it to me straight. Don't sit there and beat around the bush. That, in my opinion, is worse than getting denied the job opportunity. Like, if I'm not qualified for the position based on my credentials, then fine, I won't take the job. But if you're gonna string me along just because I'm doing the job that you don't want to do, then it's simply not worth working there any longer. Like, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be quitting as well. I would go to this other job and I would happily move on with my life. Because they've essentially given you a manager's responsibility without the title or probably the pay increase. And that is really messed up. That really sucks. Not to mention the fact that Tracy is a toxic jerk. She's setting you up for failure. She's like completely forgetting who trained her. And that really is just completely unfair. So no, you're not the jerk for leaving. Screw these people. They clearly do not appreciate you for the hard work that you've put into this company. But I guarantee you, as soon as you leave, they're going to realize, oh wait, we just lost a really good employee. Because based on the way you're describing this, it sounds like you carried a lot of weight that they just were not willing to carry themselves. And with you now leaving without any kind of notice, I guarantee you they're probably going to be scrambling to find someone as fast as possible. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My coworker backstabbed my other coworker by outing her as a witch who practices witchcraft, calling her evil and unholy, despite the fact that this other coworker does the exact same thing. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally buying her some tarot cards and some crystals as a going away present, which hopefully made this coworker feel like crap because the way she was treating my friend was completely unfair. Here's what happened. Okay, so there is some important background leading up to this, so buckle up because this gets a bit weird. About a year ago, we had a new employee who we will call Amy for the sake of the story. The second person in this story is someone I will call May. So Amy and May became really close and basically became best work friends. May is also a witch, so if you want to talk tarot cards and crystals, you go to her. Now, she doesn't put this fact about herself on full display because she has gotten a lot of negative reactions, plus she's had people use that as a weapon against her. I'm into crystals myself, so that's how May and I connected. Amy said that she was also a witch, which is something that she and May heavily bonded over. They had even went to some spiritual awakening classes together. So recently, around 3 months ago, layoffs were announced, putting May and Amy on the chopping block. Cut to about a month ago, and Amy and May had suddenly stopped talking, to the point that May wouldn't even carpool if Amy was in the car. A lot of people came to me asking what happened, as I was the closest to the two of them, but I honestly had no idea. Then someone else told me that Amy was saying a lot of bad things about May. So I finally just go and ask May, and she tells me that they went to a party and something happened that Amy wouldn't apologize for. I then go to Amy and I ask her straight up what's going on. Now, she won't tell me at all what happened, but she did badmouth May a lot, but even still, never once did she say what happened. So I go right back to May. But May finally tells me that they went to a party, and apparently Amy left her there alone to go with a guy and didn't tell her. Not only that, May can't go to parties alone or drive because she has epilepsy, and this is a well-known thing around work. So the stress of her not knowing what happened to her friend caused her to have a seizure. She then ended up in the hospital for a day and was out of work for 2. And when May finally got to talk to Amy, she didn't apologize and in fact tried to make May feel like she was in the wrong. Amy also started going on some odd crusade about May being a witch and going on some bout of like, oh, I'm holier than thou, with the words evil and unholy being used an uncomfortable amount. And if I'm being completely honest, that shift was so fast, it just feels like she joined some kind of like religious organization or something like that. And that finally brings us to the present day where we're having a party for those being laid off. I got a gift for everybody, but I also got something special for Amy. For Amy, I made her a witch and Wiccan basket with some tarot cards, a few crystals, and some candles. Well, the look on her face, honestly, it was one of those strange smiles that screamed, I can't throw a fit right now because I care about my image, but oh my god, I am so pissed off right now. Now, did I spend over $30 just to be petty? Why, yes, I absolutely did. And in my opinion, it was totally worth it. Okay, I like how Amy turned around and tried to be like, oh wow, May's a terrible person. She's a witch and she's evil and unholy. Meanwhile, Amy literally also is a witch. Like, she's complaining about herself, like what's going on? Also, the fact that she abandoned May at this like party and said, oh, I'm gonna go home with this guy, see you later, person who can't drive, that is messed up beyond belief and there's no good excuse for that. The least she could have done was like call an Uber for May so she's not stuck stranded there, or even causing her undue stress that seriously caused a seizure. Like, that is really scary and that's unfair. So I love this petty revenge. I think Amy absolutely had this coming because Amy's a piece of garbage and all the problems May's experiencing quite literally is Amy's fault. And she deserves to feel just a little bit uncomfortable after everything that she did. Am I the jerk for telling my neighbor that I will no longer accept any of her packages anymore after one of them went missing and she literally blamed it all on me? Because I'm seriously pissed off about this and I don't know what to do next. Here's what happened. I'm a 31-year-old female and I live in a small apartment complex in the United States that doesn't have a front desk or package lockers. Deliveries are usually left at doors and neighbors sometimes hold packages for each other. Well, about 6 months ago, my neighbor, who I will call Linda, asked me if I could collect her packages for her when she wasn't home since I work remotely. Now, thinking nothing of it, I agreed, and at first it was occasional, but over time the number of packages increased to multiple deliveries each week. Many arrived without notice and were left at my door with my name written on them. Well, last month one of her packages went missing. I literally never received it. She assumed that I had it and repeatedly contacted me asking for it. She also came to my door and asked to come inside just to check and see if I was hiding it or something like that. And by the way, I refused to do that and I told her I did not have that package. She then filed a missing package claim and actually listed me as the person responsible for receiving it. I later received an email from the delivery company asking for a statement. Well, after that, I told her I'm no longer going to be accepting packages for her, and I suggested that she use like delivery lockers or a pickup location. And I said this in a polite but firm way. Well, of course, when I said this, she became upset and said that I was overreacting and not being neighborly. She has since told others that I lost her package and refused to help her out. Some neighbors really believe that I should have continued accepting packages since it was only one missing item. But like, I feel uncomfortable being responsible for her deliveries and being blamed if something goes wrong. So am I the jerk for no longer accepting this kind of responsibility? Because right now, I really just don't know what else to do. Bro, Linda's a complete jerk. Are you kidding me right now? She's literally gonna lose her package and then try to be like,
oh, this was your problem. You're the one at fault for losing it. I can't believe you're that irresponsible.
And trust me, if anybody's gonna talk to me like that, I will absolutely cut the cord and be like, okay, I'm never helping you ever again, especially if you're gonna blame me for something that you should have taken care of. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but that would personally drive me up a wall. Here I am doing you a favor, and by the way, I don't have to do this favor, and then you have the audacity to sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe you lost my package. You're the one responsible for this, and if you don't keep doing it, I'm gonna spread rumors about you. Like, what are we talking about right now? Are you kidding me right now? That is so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk here. If anything, you're the only reasonable person in this entire apartment complex. Because for her to blame this on you without any kind of evidence and try to act like, oh, it's your fault it went missing, when this literally is not your package and you didn't ask for any of this, that is completely insane and so uncalled for. And I really don't blame you for not wanting to help her out any longer. Am I the jerk for not telling my family that I joined the Navy? Because once they found out, they said that I'm being selfish and betraying the family. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm an 18-year-old female, and growing up, I had to do everything with my twin sister, who I will call Sophia for the sake of the story. And mostly, I had to do everything that Sophia wanted to do. If things didn't go her way, she would throw a huge fit until she got her way. Our whole lives, we had to share a brightly colored bedroom. Once in 4th grade, I got in trouble because I put a picture of a poorly drawn dragon on the wall because it was too dark for Sophia, which I thought was just completely ridiculous. Throughout elementary and middle school, our mom dressed us up in the exact same or nearly identical clothing, all because she thought it was cute. Then in 5th grade, my mom had us sign up for ballet because it was something that Sophia also wanted to do. When I would ask to join boxing, my dad would yell at me for only thinking of myself. And then my mom would chime in and be like, well, that is way too rough for Sophia. She cannot do boxing. And when I got into high school, it got way worse. Whenever I wanted to hang out with my own friends, Sophia just had to come along, or she'll say I'm purposefully excluding her. And when I would have a crush on someone, the next day Sophia would be dating him. In senior year, Sophia already made her mind up that me and her are both going to college for cosmetology. Well, to sum it all up, I couldn't do anything or do anything with my own life because it had to be what Sophia wanted, or else I would get in trouble. So as soon as I turned 18, I decided that I'm joining the Navy. And last night, I sat my parents and Sophia down at the table and explained that I wasn't going to college for cosmetology with Sophia, but instead, I'm leaving for the Navy. When I said this, they all started to scream at me that this was selfish and that I'm betraying the family. So honestly, am I betraying the family? Like, am I the jerk for not telling my family that I joined the military? Because right now, I'm super frustrated and I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think you have every right to branch out and do whatever you want, but personally, I don't think that joining the Navy is necessarily like the answer in this scenario. I don't know, you're exchanging like having to do what Sophia says all the time to then having to do whatever the Navy says all the time. You're essentially exchanging your agency from one sibling over to like an entire military industry. And hey, this is just my opinion, but that is absolutely not the thing I would do if I was in a situation like that. But if you think this is a good fit, then dude, congratulations, you're absolutely going to get away from your family. You will do something way different than your sister, and I think that's probably exactly what you're looking for. Not to mention that a lot of people get like specialized training and get like a college degree through the Navy, so in a way this could work out for you, so maybe this is a good decision. But when it comes to your family freaking out and saying you're betraying the family, like dude, you're not betraying anybody. Joining the Navy and just the military in general really can work out for some people. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you're doing what's best for you, and if this is your way of getting away from Sophia, then I think you should go for it, because clearly having to follow along with whatever she does is absolutely miserable, and if joining the military is like a better option than that, then I think by all means go for it. Today, I messed up by confidently correcting my professor in front of like 100 other students, only to realize that I was completely wrong, as my professor corrected me in a way that was humiliating and really made me regret signing up for this class. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened today, and honestly, I want the earth to open up and swallow me whole. I'm in a large lecture hall class that houses about 100 students. The professor is explaining a concept I thought I understood really well because I had read about it online. He then says something that I think is incorrect. So I raise my hand in front of everyone, and I confidently and loudly correct him. He then pauses, looks at me, asks me if I'm sure, and instead of retreating, I double down. I say that I'm certain, actually, because I just read about this. Well, he then pulls up the sources on the projector, academic journals, textbook excerpts, data, all proving that I am spectacularly singularly, embarrassingly wrong. And he's not even being a jerk about it. He's calmly walking through why my understanding is flawed, which somehow makes it even worse. Well, the silence in that room was deafening. You could hear 100 people collectively cringing on my behalf. I tried to play it off like, oh, interesting, I must have misread. But we all know that I messed up. I confidently, publicly messed up in the worst possible way. I was on my laptop after class trying to distract myself and just kept replaying the moment over and over again. That pause before he pulled up the sources, the look on his face, the silence. I have 8 more weeks in this class. 8 weeks. And I've essentially become a cautionary tale about hubris. I'm literally that student now. The one who tried to correct the professor and got intellectually destroyed. I'm never raising my hand again, and honestly, I don't know how I'm going to get through this class after this embarrassment. Okay, honestly, this could have been way worse. You could have had a professor who was going to ring you out for the entire class and make you look like a complete fool, but instead he just went through this kindly and just handled it extremely professionally. And that to me is the mark of a good teacher. He didn't go out of his way to make you look bad or make you like question your sanity or like your self-worth. So if I was in your shoes, yeah, I would feel pretty embarrassed, but also like, dude, this sounds like a good professor because he's willing to correct you in a way that's educational and not humiliating. And yeah, it was embarrassing at the moment, but I guarantee you the next time you come in that class, it will be like nothing happened. Because it doesn't sound like he's the kind of person who's gonna like hold this against you or try to make you feel bad. If anything, he's just gonna keep moving forward and keep the class running. Today, I had the most entitled client of my career, and I'm still trying to process what happened because this was truly ridiculous and I don't know what to make of it. Here's what happened. Okay, so earlier today, I had a new client book me for a mobile massage. She's a woman in her 30s, and I've never worked on this woman before, so because of that, I make sure to go through all expectations well before the massage and ensure that my clients get every bit of what they are paying for. So we did just that. We chatted for about 5 minutes before we got started, and she was really kind. She went into detail about exactly what she wanted, and she asked for about a 1.5 hour massage, told me exactly what areas to focus on, stated that she had 0 areas to avoid pain points, and had reported no pain, so all was golden as far as I could tell. So we finalize everything and start the massage. As we are going, I make it a point every like 15 minutes or so to check in and ask questions, just to ensure that everything was exactly what she wanted. Now, every time that I ask, she enthusiastically will say, oh, it was perfect, and that she was super relaxed, so we just kept on going. Now, once the 1.5 hours hit, I decided to take an additional 15 minutes to give her a scalp massage, as well as a hot towel and even some hot stones. And again, this is literally after the massage. This is just something that I've always added on for my clients as a thank you. And again, I made all of this very clear that this was free on me. So as we're wrapping up and I'm putting up all my stuff and getting ready to have her get up and change, she suddenly says to me, wait, was that a deep tissue massage? I wanted a relaxing massage. The pressure was really too hard for me. But I politely replied, oh no, that's what we agreed upon. And I asked you about pressure along the way and you said it was perfect. I'm sorry, but did I miss something? She then sits up, looks at me and says, well, no. So I am definitely not tipping you at all for something I didn't even want. That is not what I asked for. If you were a good massage therapist, you'd give me more time and make sure I am taken care of. And when I tell you how fast I told her to get off of my table, pay me, and lose my number, trust me, it was fast because that was ridiculous and I can't believe she said that to me. Oh man, this is one of those clients where it's like, okay, you're paying ahead of time first and foremost, and then you're gonna get the massage. Because holy crap, this lady sat on that table for like almost 2 hours at this point, getting a massage from someone who is clearly going above and beyond to impress this client. So for her to sit there and be like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, like that is so obnoxious, bro, I would lose my mind. The original poster checked in like all the time being like, hey, you doing good? Does this feel all right? And the client saying, oh, I'm super relaxed, this is perfect. That's clearly an indication that the massage therapist is doing their job correctly. So like, what are you talking about? Oh, you should have given me more time. I just can't stand people who act like that. It's so entitled and it's so toxic. And if I was in the original poster shoes, I would have handled this pretty much the same way, because it's ridiculous for her to sit there and try and act like she didn't get exactly what she wanted when the original poster absolutely clarified the entire time that, yeah, this is what you're looking for. My parents, especially my mom, have been pressuring me to get married to my boyfriend. But despite the fact that my boyfriend's father is literally struggling with terminal cancer, my mom refuses to listen to reason, saying that this is the perfect time to get married, despite the fact that there is so much going on that really needs to be addressed first. And I'm seriously so frustrated that now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, my boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years. We're both 27 years old, we're happy, we have a cute little apartment with a dog together, and we honestly just have a blast. We have good jobs, good friends, and everything has just been good overall. Well, about a year ago, my parents decided to shift gears and suddenly stop liking him because, for one, he's too quiet, it, and 2, apparently he's stringing me along. Basically, they're mad that he hasn't put a ring on it yet. Both of us are pretty unconventional and just view marriage as like a piece of paper. Nothing in our current dynamic would really change. Plus, I don't want kids until I'm closer to 30 anyways, so we never really rushed through it. We had discussed getting engaged this past fall, but then his father received a terminal cancer diagnosis. Well, there hasn't been much marriage talk lately, but it finally came to fruition today while on the phone with my mom. She asked how his dad was doing, and then asked if we could be quick about this and rush to get married if he went downhill very quickly. He has a stem cell treatment coming up next month that will determine a lot. I then said to her, well, I don't know, Mom. Honestly, just getting us through this journey has been my priority. She then said in a very pissed off tone, oh, so I'm assuming that's the holdup? Because, you know, we all thought you guys were getting engaged in the fall. But I responded back by saying, yeah, well, we didn't because his father received a terminal diagnosis, and she really couldn't understand that my boyfriend and his family being in the stages of this like life-altering illness could possibly take away from my getting engaged. She sounded so angry. I know they think that his family is hindering my life, but quite honestly, I feel the exact opposite. I've never questioned his commitment to me, and this era with his father's health has been so horribly devastating. Why would I ask him to propose right now? Like, am I crazy? I'm just so tired of the pressure, and I've told them to ease up before, and they just don't get it. It's always just these underhanded, constant comments, because right now I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know how to handle this. Wow, your mom's being crazy toxic right now. She can only think about you guys getting married. Like, she doesn't see that, oh, hey, his dad is dying. Maybe this is not the time to sit there and be like, oh, I think you need to get married really quick. He doesn't look very good. He doesn't have a lot of time in this world. Looks like you need to get married right away. Like, bro, let's get our priorities straightened out. This is not some roadblock on the way to marriage. This is a serious issue. And the worst part about it is that if the roles were reversed and the original poster's dad was the one with cancer, you can bet the pressure would be even worse. Like, these people are so selfish, and they're just ignoring your boyfriend's suffering and all the things he's going through. So yeah, with all things considered, I completely understand why the original poster is frustrated, because if I was in their shoes, I would probably feel the exact same way. I have been secretly mailing my toenail clippings to my childhood bully once a month for 11 years. And I started doing this all because this bully was mean to me when I was 12 years old. And now, after self-reflecting, I'm kind of wondering if this is a weird thing to do, or if I'm justified in any way to get this kind of revenge. Because this is practically a part of my routine, and I seriously don't have any plans of stopping anytime soon. Here's how it all got started. Okay, I want to start off by saying that yes, this is very weird, but I've also never told anyone about it, so here we go. When I was in middle school, there was this kid who I will call Marcus, who made my life miserable. Like, not just like the regular type of bullying you might encounter. This kid was creative about it. One time, he convinced half our grade that I'd crap myself at a sleepover that I wasn't even at. Another time, he found out I had a crush on this girl who I will call Emily, and he asked her out specifically to tell me about it in detail. Just really cruel stuff constantly for like 3 years. Anyways, fast forward to 2014, where I'm in college and I haven't thought about Marcus in a while. I'm scrolling Facebook and I see his mom posted something about a garage sale, and her address was right there in the post. And so in that moment, I screenshot it. I don't really know why I did that, I just did. So that night, I'm clipping my toenails, watching TV, and then I look at the little pile and I look at my phone with the screenshot, and I just thought to myself, wait a second, I could do something with this. So I put them in an envelope with no note, no return address, and I mailed it the next day. And you know what? I felt pretty stupid immediately after that, but I figured that was it. I got it out of my system, whatever. But then a month later, I'm clipping my toenails again. And you know what? I went ahead and I just did it all over again. Now, that was 11 years ago, and I have not missed a single month. I've mailed them from different cities when I'm traveling for work, and I honestly just don't even think about it much anymore. It's just part of my routine now, where in my head, I go, okay, it's the first of the month. I need to pay my rent, and then I need to mail the toenails. The thing is, I have no idea if he opens them or if he throws them away immediately, or if his wife opens the mail and has been hiding it from him for years. I have genuinely no idea, and honestly, I don't really care. Like, I'm not doing this for a reaction. I think I just like knowing that somewhere out there these envelopes exist. I looked him up recently and he's got a wife and kids now. He's got a nice house and he seems happy. And honestly, good for him, I guess. But guess what? I found his new address when they moved a few years ago, and that literally took me like 10 minutes. Sometimes I wonder if I should stop. I have a decent job and a wife too, and normal life stuff. But also, once a month, I mail my toenails to a man that was mean to me when I was like 12 years old, which really makes me think that maybe there's something just a little bit wrong with me. Okay, I gotta be honest, this is probably probably like the grossest and weirdest way of getting revenge on someone I've ever heard of in my life. That is seriously strange. Like, dude, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, it's one thing to send it for like a few months and be like, huh, I showed him. But this is to a level I did not even think was possible. Like, dude, you're going on for 11 years. Like, this person is literally trimming their toenails every month and being like, okay, I gotta mail this off to Marcus. Like, bro, I don't know about you, but even like a year of that seems a little excessive. But you've been at this for like 11. Like, bro, that is a little extreme if you ask me. So I guess good for the original poster. I guess they're getting it out of their system for the way they got treated as a kid. But either way, this is really funny and it's also really weird. And the fact that this has become a part of your routine, in my opinion, is even stranger.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mother lets my niece repeatedly bother me while I'm trying to study, as she's constantly banging on my door and making so much noise that it is literally impossible for me to get anything done. But after this most recent incident, I really feel like I want to pull my hair out, because she was super obnoxious today and I honestly don't want to deal with that ever again. Here's what's going on. So my sister gave her child to my mother for the day because apparently my niece said that she wanted to come over, but it wasn't planned, so I wasn't expecting her to be there. I had told my mom that I was planning on studying all day, so she knew that I was in my room doing work. Well, I was in the middle of it, and then I heard someone open my door, and my niece came in and said she needed to hide, which is something she does when she comes into my room sometimes, so she jumped into my bed and went under the sheets. Now, I don't swear at my niece, but it was really taking everything in me to not lose it, because my mother was nowhere to be seen and just let her run upstairs over to me. Well, I didn't engage with her, and I just took her back downstairs, and I probably looked as if I wanted to kill someone because I was very pissed off. She said she would keep her downstairs, so I went to my room and then I heard my niece say that she wanted to come to my room again, and I could hear her basically having a tantrum because she wasn't allowed to. Maybe another hour went by and I then heard her upstairs again, this time shouting my name, where she then came to my door and started knocking and banging on the door, shouting for me over and over again. And once again, my mother was nowhere to be seen. Well, I just flat out ignored her, and I felt like a jerk for not responding, but after like 10 minutes, I guess she got tired and just went back down. It's insanely frustrating because nobody seems to care if she comes to my room when I've made it pretty clear that I don't want her there, and no one does anything to stop it, which I know they can't really, but they could at least properly discipline her, or maybe just come up and get her and not leave it to me to bring her back down when she does. It's all super annoying and I just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I don't know what your room is like, but I really hope your room has like a lock on it, because holy crap, I would lock that door so fast and then throw some noise-canceling headphones on and just be done with it. This kind of behavior, especially from like a 3-year-old, is one of those things that you either have to correct it or just ignore it. And in my opinion, in this scenario, it's not your job to correct anything. Your mom should be babysitting the kid, not you. So hopefully you can find some kind of like distance between this garbage, because if I was trying to study and I had someone coming up there and banging on the door and just distracting me the entire time, I would also be pretty pissed off and probably losing my mind. A board of trustees at a charity I used to work for fired not only me, but also my other coworker, as they said they were trying to cut costs, but in reality, there was just a bunch of work politics going on in the background. But thankfully, my previous manager got revenge against these people in a way that they will truly never forget, forcing them to close down permanently after he finally quit. And it's honestly super satisfying to see because these people really sucked. Here's what happened. During COVID, I worked for a small Christian charity that ran a day center for adults with learning disabilities. When in-person attendance stopped, the charity started bleeding money, and the council funding barely covered the gap. There were 6 staff in total, including the manager. When the board decided to save money, they made 2 people redundant, me and another young employee. Both of us had been there for around 2 years and handled most of the actual day-to-day work. Now, the people that stayed included the minister's wife, who's also chair of the board of trustees, as well as someone who had been a part of the church for decades, and someone they couldn't let go because they had kids. And eventually, we were taken to a trustee's house just to be told that we were losing our jobs. No human resources, no neutrality, just church politics. Well, here's where it all backfired. Our manager, who I will call Alan for the sake of the story, was genuinely one of the best people I've ever worked for. Crucially, while the trustees governed, Alan controlled the finances and had personally invested a large amount of his own money to keep the charity afloat. So while the board thought they were cutting the cost, Alan quietly ensured that we received proper severance, meaning that I left with $6,000 and the other employee received about $4,000 based based on role complexity. Well, once the news got out, the trustees were furious. They stopped speaking to us entirely during our notice period, and Alan even offered that I could work from home, but I chose to come into the office anyways, smiling, doing my job, and being very visibly non-religious in a space where that clearly bothered them. There was no shouting, no scenes, just pure joy from me. Well, fast forward to about a year and a half later and the charity closed. And while 2 years after that they did reopen, within 6 months they closed again. And in case you're wondering why, it's because Alan eventually quit. After the way the trustees treated staff and how they handled our redundancies, he was just done. Without him and without his financial backing, the organization couldn't function. I'm still in contact with him today, and it turns out the people they tried to cut to save money were never the problem in the first place, which honestly makes me feel better about my own exit from the company. Okay, I love this so much because, dude, these board members clearly didn't understand why this place was staying afloat, and it started and ended with Alan, like through and through. So yeah, it does suck that you lost your job, but from the sounds of it, they were doomed from the start. And that's literally just karma working its magic. Like, these people sound like they definitely deserve to be humbled, and thankfully Alan was there to make sure that gets taken care of. Am I the jerk for leaving the house to stay with my boyfriend after my sister tried to force me to take care of her child? Because ever since I helped her out like this one time, she has slowly but surely forced me into essentially becoming the full-time caregiver for her daughter. And I'm honestly super frustrated at this entire situation, and I just don't know what to do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm a 20-year-old female and I do not like kids. I never have, and I don't enjoy taking care of them or playing with them or being responsible for them. And I've always been clear about this with my family. Now, my sister has a 5-year-old daughter and I love her, but loving someone doesn't mean I want to be a caregiver for the thing I hate the most. Anyways, a few months ago, my sister started asking me to help her with her daughter. At first, it was just small things, watching her for an hour, staying with her while my sister ran errands, and I did not love it, but I agreed because I felt pressured. But slowly, it turned into more and more. I was then expected to babysit multiple days a week for hours. I had to feed her and play with her and help her shower and put her to sleep. My sister never asked anymore. She just assumed that I would do it and then yell at me when I didn't. Whenever I tried to say no, she would say things like, "Oh, you're young, you have free time, you live at home anyways." Or she would guilt trip me by saying that she has family and I should just help them and then just blame me if I don't. I felt trapped and exhausted. And even though I hated every minute of it, I still did it because every time I complained, my family told me I was being selfish and I just felt like a massive jerk. Recently, I told everyone that I had planned a trip with my friends and it was already paid for and planned weeks in advance. And you know what? I was excited because it was the first time in a long while that I felt like I had something for myself. Well, wouldn't you guess it? My sister immediately got angry. She said, "Okay, well, what am I supposed to do with my daughter then?" It was here that I reminded her that I never agreed to be her full-time babysitter. And when I said that, she exploded on me. She said I was abandoning her and being irresponsible. She told me that I should cancel my trip and take care of my niece instead. But I immediately said no. And that turned into a huge argument in and of itself. She called me names and said that I was immature and heartless, and my parents of course sided with her and said I should step up and help my sister out. I felt overwhelmed, and honestly, I was just completely done. And I knew if I stayed around them, I really would snap at them. So I packed a bag and I left the house to stay with my boyfriend for a few days. And now they're just completely furious with me. They say I ran away from responsibility and that I chose my boyfriend and my friends over my own family. My sister says that I betrayed her and that she cannot rely on me anymore. So now I feel guilty for my niece and I feel like I'm the bad person in this situation. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I can't stand family like this because this is irrational. These people are really trying to be like, "Wow, you're betraying me by going on vacation. You can't go on vacation. I need you to be a full-time babysitter for free. Why are you running away from your responsibilities?" And it's like, dude, what are we talking about right now? I am not responsible for this child. It is not my kid. I helped you out one time, all because I felt pressured, and definitely not because I wanted to. So for any of these people to be like guilt-tripping you and acting crazy like this, like for me, I would look at them and say, "Good. Don't rely on me. I'm unreliable and I don't want to help out." Like maybe you just need to be clear and not give in to anything they say because it's obvious they're just going to take advantage of you. They're going to guilt trip you if you say no, and it's just going to be a mess because your entire family has proven to be super toxic if you say no to them. And that is absolutely not something you should ever have to deal with. My entitled coworker is one of the most annoying people on the planet, as they're constantly saying and doing things that get under my skin and cause me a lot of problems in the workspace. But now I've started to get some petty revenge on him by not only inconveniencing him in like the most obvious ways possible, but also by completely ignoring him and pretending like he doesn't exist. Because this guy is super obnoxious to deal with and I simply cannot take it any longer. Here's what I currently have to deal with. Okay, to start this all off, I have this coworker who, for the sake of this story, I will call Jim. And let me tell you something, Jim is a massive jerk. Jim likes to hide and dodge work, and he also likes to spread fake stories about people in our workplace. Jim likes to make inappropriate jokes and comments, and is somehow able to get away with it despite multiple complaints to management, including 2 from me personally. He also likes to stand uncomfortably close to people and just hover, or even lean in when standing near someone sitting. We work on a large property and there are multiple golf carts roaming throughout the day, and Jim likes to park extremely close to the other people's carts and block them in. Well, Jim has recently been focusing his complaints onto me. I try to stay clear of all the drama, but he started complaining about small things, or even just antagonizing me on purpose. And I really think it bothers Jim that he can't get a rise out of me. Well, because of all of this, I've started a shadow campaign against Jim. I've removed literally everything from the cart he typically uses, paperwork, tools, etc. And it's all company property, by the way, so it's not like he really uses any of it. Then the next day, I saw him looking in the storage compartments and in the bed of the cart bewildered about where things were. The cart is older and you can leave the ignition on, but still remove the key so that it's always on. And this type of cart has a universal key, so I'll use mine to switch the ignition off every time I see it parked all by its lonesome. And I like to picture Jim sitting down and flooring it, and then having to figure out why his cart didn't zoom away. Oh, and one more thing. I completely quit acknowledging Jim entirely. I don't look his way, I don't smile, I don't say hello, I literally give him nothing. One day, he rolled up next to me looking ready for a chat, but I watched him and waited until the very moment that his cart rolled back slightly as it came to an eventual stop. And then I just took off. I didn't say a word. I was just gone with Jim sitting in the middle of the road behind me. And if you can't tell already, I think it's probably pretty obvious that I really don't like Jim. Oh man, we've all had that coworker, haven't we? The one that's like grating on your skin, and despite the multiple complaints, they still don't get fired somehow. Like, holy crap, I can't stand these kinds of people. Because 9 times out of 10, at least in my experience, the Jims of any office are typically like related to the owner or something like that. They get away with crap like this all the time, they can never be like reprimanded, and it's kind of one of those people that you just have to like tolerate and get along with even if you hate it. So yeah, I don't blame you for avoiding Jim, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would do a lot more than just like turn his card off when he isn't looking, because this guy sounds like a jerk and I would hate to have to deal with him. Today, I got some much needed revenge against my lazy colleague, as I quite literally got her fired for being lazy and not doing her job, which by the way was completely deserved, because she literally wasn't doing anything and it made my life a lot harder. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was an administrative assistant supporting 5 different professionals. I was swamped with work and time was running out, so I handed it off to someone who I will call Lazy Susie, who only supported like 3 people and had nothing to do. But then 2 days before the deadline, she dumped it right back on my desk, saying that she had been too busy to get around to it. I knew this wasn't true because her department had nothing on at the time, and for me, this was the last straw. I wanted to get her fired. I went round to the 3 executives that she supported, and I said to them, I'm doing a review of administrative workflow. What admin tasks do you have outstanding? And their answer was, well, none right now. And this wasn't unusual. Theirs was an ebb and flow kind of unit, swamped one week, twiddling their thumbs the next. But our unit was busy most of the time. I had worked overtime to get it done. In fact, I had previously spoken with my manager about being overloaded. So I went to her office and I used that information about no assignments in the pipeline in that other unit to make the case for revising the administrative workflow. At the Monday morning staff meeting, our manager asked why I had to use overtime to get the work done. And I just said, well, ask Susie. That work had been on her desk and then she brought it back to me. Susie then said, well, it's because I've been too busy. And honestly, it was perfect. She trapped herself in a lie. My manager then said to her, may I ask, doing what for who? Because as far as I know, you were completely available. Did any of you have any tasks assigned to Susie last week? They then all looked at each other, and I could see that none of the 3 people knew that there were others that had also tasked her with any other assignments. Susie then blushed crimson red and stared at her shoes. She had just got caught lying to our boss in front of all of us. It was excruciating and everybody winced. I knew that lazy Susie not helping out when she had nothing to do would piss off our manager to no end. Eventually, interviews for Susie's replacement began the next week, and eventually she was gone by the end of the month.
Okay, I love this because holy crap, if I'm working a job and I'm working in an office and I know for a fact my coworker could help me get this done, but instead they're sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm too busy to help out." That not only makes me want to go just a little bit insane, but it will also especially piss me off when I know for a fact it's not true, dude. Like, bro, you are not as busy as me. You easily could pick this up and get this done if you really wanted to. But instead of doing that, you're just gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm unavailable," and then try to dump it back on my desk. Like, bro, I don't think so. So with all that in mind, truly good for you. This is some fantastic revenge because Susie could have easily taken care of this, but she chose not to. And if someone's gonna act like that under the stress that you're currently experiencing, then they definitely have gotta go. Would I be the jerk for wanting to stop paying rent for my ex-girlfriend? All because by the first of the month, I'm planning to move out. Because right now, she is literally making this entire process a lot harder than it needs to be. And I'm starting to second guess my decision, and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I broke up with my girlfriend after 2 years, and I'm gonna be moving out within the first month. Now, we agreed that I would help her with the rent for 2 extra months, as the lease requires 3 months after terminating the contract, but it's important to note that I'm not on the lease. Legally, I'm not obligated to pay, but I have been helping her out in good faith in an attempt to keep things peaceful and respectful. But now things are starting to get out of hand. For example, she's made some really unfair financial demands. Like she's got over $500 worth of furniture, and I had to fight hard to get my fair share. Also, while living together, she made me pay an extra $50 a month, and she still demands that I pay this. She's also demanding 80% of the value of some dining furniture, which was originally from my parents, just because she put cloth on the chairs, and this feels completely unfair to me. She's also not appreciating the rent that I've been paying, and is being really petty about everything. It's starting to feel like my generosity is being taken advantage of. I've asked for the lease and contract, but she didn't want me to have it because she is the sole partner tied to it. Up until now, I've been staying calm, trying to de-escalate, and compromising a lot, but she's been difficult, and it feels like she's not attempting to make this a quiet and respectful split. Now, I really do respect her. She was a good partner, but I'm questioning if I should stop paying the rent now. She will be extremely mad, and I feel like I've already done more than enough, but I also don't want to give up on being the bigger person by turning into the petty one regarding this matter. So seriously, what do you think? Should I confront her, or should I just suck it up for these next 3 months? Because right now, I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would not be paying anything that she's demanding. I would get my stuff, I would get out, and I would block her. You do know you're breaking up with your girlfriend, right? Like, this is not your wife. And the fact that she's making all these weird demands and being so petty and weird towards you is like more than enough reason for me personally to be like, yeah, I'm not paying for any of this. I'm not on the lease, you're making weird demands, and you refuse to even show me the lease. So no, I don't trust you, I don't want to pay anymore, and I'm out of here. Sorry, see you later. And that's just me. Like, I don't know the situation you're in. You know the nuances of it way more than I do, but from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like she was a very good girlfriend. And if that's the case, then guess what? I'm going to be an even worse ex. I'm going to cut and run, and I'm going to say, see you later, while like moonwalking into the distance. And honestly, the fact that she doesn't want to give you the contract so you can see exactly what's written on there, which by the way, she could be completely lying to you about everything, like that alone is more than enough for me to be like, okay, I'm going to wipe my hands of this situation and not look back. This is crazy talk. Because otherwise, you have no proof that any of this is real. And yes, just to reassure you, she is absolutely taking advantage of you. She's trying to milk every single penny out of your pocket that she can possibly get, all before you finally leave and move out of her life. And I totally get it. Like, you're trying to be the better person. You're trying to be that guy that is like, okay, I want to maintain some kind of like mutual respect amongst the two of us. But my guy, she's not doing that. She's actively trying to screw you over. And she's literally trying to be like, oh, you're leaving? Okay, well, pay for my rent for 3 months before you go. Like, dude, what are we talking about? I got my own rent to deal with. We're not married. I'm not obligated to do this. I'm not on the lease. And if you're not going to show me the lease so I can see in writing that this is what we need to do, well then congratulations, I'm not paying for a thing. So that's personally what I would do. And if you did do that, I don't think you would be the jerk at all. Because based on what you're describing, your ex is being very toxic towards you. And you do not deserve to put up with that. And I really don't think you should be required to pay for any more rent because that sounds incredibly stupid. My husband is demanding that he be allowed to take a solo trip just so he can visit his girl best friend. But after years of dealing with this woman and her constantly getting in the way of our marriage, I feel like I'm at a breaking point and I feel like I'm losing my mind because this has seriously started to get in the way of pretty much everything we have planned for the entire year, as he is attached to the hip with this lady in a way that is completely uncalled for and just a little bit suspicious, putting me in a situation where I really don't know what to do next. Here's what's going on, and stay with me because this is about to get really weird. Okay, so my husband has a girl best friend who I have not gotten along with since they became friends in college. There's a lot of backstory backstory and history, so I will do my best to explain this here. Basically, she is a selfish friend who is constantly in crisis, and she uses this to get him to always save her. He has a bit of a Superman complex and likes to help and save people, and often struggles to communicate effectively. And this combo has caused issues big and small throughout the years. At the smallest, he's not really texting me back when he's with her, or he'll get back to me beyond later than he's supposed to with no communication. At the biggest, aside from the newest issue that I'm going to explain, he'll be leaving work in the middle of the day to save her in another state during a snowstorm, all because she suddenly got vertigo. He and her cousin and friend had to do this, and he let a stranger drive our car in terrible conditions. Now, just to be clear, she was safe in a coworker's house, not stranded on the side of the road or anything like that. In fact, another time, I found out he was hiding in the car to talk to her on the phone, which then leads us to now. She moved to another time zone this past fall, and she has visited at least twice ever since then. In early December, we were at a group outing, and in a conversation with a friend, he casually brought up planning to fly to her city days before Christmas, and I'm talking leaving in 2 weeks. And by the way, I'd never even heard a word about the trip before that, so I confronted him on the way home, both for the fact that he hadn't talked to me about it, and for seemingly bringing it up in public to control my reaction, because he knew I would not like this at all. After talking and fighting about it, he agreed that he wouldn't try to do any type of solo trip to her for at least a year. Then, just the other night, we sat down to talk about our planned trips and our budget for the year, and one of which being a trip to her city together. Now, this trip is for an event and it has no attachment to this lady, and I think we even planned it before she announced her move. And I've told him that while we're there, he can plan to see her for a day without me around. But after this, he casually dropped the fact that he wants to take a solo trip just to visit her by himself in either March or April. And at this point, I kinda lost it. We talked in circles about how this isn't what we discussed. He then called me controlling and admitting he only agreed to wait a year previously just to end that conversation and placate me. But I told him straight up he was her fluffer boyfriend. He said even if we can't agree on boundaries for this trip, he is still inclined to go. And now I feel like any trust I had left is just completely broken. Will he even follow through on anything we agree to while he's there? Or will he just agree to shut me up and do whatever he wants when the time comes? So seriously, am I overreacting about my husband's relationship with this woman and the idea of him going to see her alone without me? Because right now I am so frustrated and I really just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, for me, and someone else pointed this out, so I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking this, the fact that this guy was hiding in the car to talk to her on the phone is absolutely the biggest evidence that something else is going on. You mean to tell me that your husband, the guy that you're married to, is so attached to the hip that he would go behind your back to try and talk to her, all in some effort of hiding the conversation? That is so weird. I'm sorry, there's no good excuse for this. And I don't want to say he's cheating on you, but good lord, he is definitely setting up the circumstances for this to be easily done. And by the way, I don't know of anybody that is a man who has a girl best friend who would go out of his way to take care of them and be oh no, you've got vertigo, you're stuck in a snowstorm, let me drive to another state to save you. Bro, what are we talking about? You are not the only person close by that can help her out. And she wasn't even in danger. She was at another coworker's house. What are we talking about? So not only is this lady delusional, but so is your husband, dude. And if I was in your shoes, I would be rethinking pretty much everything I have with this guy. And I also would be very suspicious of his actual intentions with this lady, because I cannot understand why he would be so obsessed with this person. Because this isn't a best friend he's trying to take care of. This is literally him picking up a second wife of some kind. So in my opinion, this entire situation is super sketchy, and I would be very suspicious of your husband's intentions. Because in my opinion, this entire thing is not normal. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister and I received a surprise inheritance of well over $300,000 from my Nana when she passed away. But now that it's all said and done, I don't know how to tell my boyfriend about this situation. Because on the one hand, I don't want to lie to him, but I also don't want this to ruin our relationship. Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, I inherited almost $375,000 from my Nana, who is my mother's aunt who raised her. And up until today, my entire family was under the impression that there was no will, as that is what we've been told this entire time by the executor. After getting some mail this week, my sister and I thought that without a will, my mother's birth mother, who's my Nana's sister, would try to contest getting the money. But we now know that my Nana got a fully notarized will in February of 2023, stating very clearly that her entire estate was to go to me and my sibling only. And honestly, overnight my entire life changed. Now, my boyfriend and I have really bad home life situations, and it's all because of the family members we live with. I know this money could get us both out of where we are, but as of a week ago, I didn't think I'd get anything at all, and had accepted that the best course of action for my personal future was making sure once I leave this house, I can 100% financially take care of myself and never have to rely on anyone else again financially, no matter what might be going on. I came to terms with having to suffer for a minimum of 2 more years before he and I could finally move out together. This gives us both the opportunity to use those 2 years to figure out ourselves, namely in terms of like what we want to do education-wise, and by also saving up as much money as we can. Our bills we have now are laughable compared to the cost of living in California in 2026, and this is even as a couple with 2 incomes. I also have almost $100,000 in debt, and I plan to pay it all off. After paying those debts, I will only pay about $500 a month in bills, which is opposed to nearly $1,000 of bills that I've been paying for years just living in my childhood home and having zero disposable income. $20,000 will be put into an emergency savings account, and for the first time in my life, I will have more than $5,000 to my name. Also, another $5,000 will go to my checking for personal use, but in no way am I going to blow it all at once. But instead, I'm more likely just going to enjoy being able to afford to go out with friends at all, or even just buy a coffee without budgeting, or even just replacing decade-old things in my room. After everything's said and done and the plans that I have, I'll have about $250,000 that I plan to put into investments. So by the time I graduate and leave school, I am absolutely more than set. At least I hope so. But here's the real issue at hand. I don't know what to tell my boyfriend. He's been aware of this entire will situation I've been dealing with, but like I said, we thought there was absolutely no will, and that it would be constant court battles. So me and my sister accepted that we probably wouldn't get a thing, and basically overnight my life just completely changed. I don't like lying, but I also know that money makes people do ugly things, and it can make them selfish. I don't plan on telling anyone who's aware of the situation and my Nana's passing the dollar amount that me and my sister got, even if they ask about it. This goes for friends, our partners, and family, including our own mom. But of course, at the end of the day, I know that the will is a public court document, so if anyone truly wanted to know, they would be able to find it after doing some research. But with that in mind, what do I tell my boyfriend? We have no children, we don't live together, and we're not engaged, but we have plans for our future, which includes all of the above. I've read too many scary stories on the internet of how money makes people do ugly things to other people that they supposedly love. Most people told themselves before that that person could never or would never do such a thing, and yet it still happens. I don't think he would do that to me at all, but I've read that story too many times to not know that I have to protect myself at all cost. So what can I say that isn't a lie, but also doesn't give away that I have a life-changing amount of money in my back pocket now? Because right now I'm seriously torn and I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I would be as vague as possible, because you're right, dude. Anytime someone gets money and other people find out about it, they start acting weird and they change completely. Like, money really does change people for the worse, unfortunately. So if I was in your shoes, I would say, well, yeah, I got some money from my Nana, but it all went to like paying off my debts, and basically I used it for investments. So I can't even touch it even if I wanted to, which honestly is true. Like, it's something that you're just putting away and saying, okay, this is for retirement and I'm never going to touch it again, which in my opinion is exactly what you should be doing with this money. I would not be using it to try and get out of a bad situation. I would be keeping it for like the rainiest of days, like 20 or 30 years down the line. Not like right now, because like, dude, this is a gift. There's so much you can do with that would better your future and give you like a really nice security blanket. So in my opinion, if you do tell your boyfriend, which I don't think you have to tell him anything, I would just keep it vague and say, yeah, I used it to pay off my debt and I have some saved up in like a retirement fund that I can't even touch. That way it takes away the temptation of like any kind of coercion or him one day saying, oh, let's split the money between the two of us. Because like, no, that's not going to happen. That's not the point of it. But instead, it's something that you really can't touch for a while, making it so there wouldn't be any kind of temptation for either of you to use it. Today, I messed up by secretly paying off my girlfriend's credit card debt, because now that she's found out about what I did, she literally has turned this against me in a way that makes me feel terrible and almost like I insulted her in some kind of way. And at this point, I really feel like I've ruined my relationship and I simply don't know how to fix things. And I now have no idea how to make this right. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened over the weekend and we are still barely talking. My girlfriend and I have been together for about a year and a half. She's been struggling financially lately and her car needed expensive repairs. She had some medical bills and her hours got cut at work. She's been really stressed about it, but also really proud. Like she doesn't want help from anyone else. I make decent money, and honestly, I wanted to help without making it weird or making it feel like it was some kind of charity. So I came up with what I thought was a really brilliant plan. She mentioned a few weeks ago that she was behind on her credit card payment, and the interest was killing her. So I figured that if I could just pay that off, it would give her some breathing room without making it too obvious. So last Friday, I asked her super casually what credit card company she uses, saying that I was thinking about switching cards and I just wanted recommendations. She then told me and didn't think anything of it. Well, here's where I completely messed up. I somehow convinced myself that if I called the credit card company, gave them her information, and paid off her balance as a third-party payment, it would just show up as a payment and that she might not even know that it was me. In my head, this was romantic and it was helpful, but looking back, I have no idea what I was thinking. So I called them on Monday, and after jumping through some hoops, they eventually let me make a payment. And so I paid off her entire balance of about $2,400. I felt really good about myself, honestly. I thought to myself, okay, problem solved, my girlfriend gets relief, I am the hero. Well, Tuesday night, she calls me absolutely furious. It turns out the credit card company sent her a notification about a third-party payment with my name on it. So of course, she knew immediately that it was me. Now she was mad, and I mean like really mad. She said that I went behind her back, and that I violated her privacy by calling her credit card company, that I made her feel like a charity case, and that I clearly don't respect her independence. I tried explaining, I just wanted to help out, and I didn't want to make her feel bad by offering directly, but that just made it worse, because she said that showed that I knew she wouldn't want the help, but I did it anyways. We got into this whole argument about boundaries and financial stuff and relationships, and she said if I wanted to help, I should have just offered like an adult instead of being sneaky about it. I then said I was trying to be thoughtful and I was trying to take the pressure off of her, but she said it wasn't thoughtful. It was controlling and condescending. She also pointed out, and this really hit me hard, that now she feels obligated to pay me back even though I never asked for that, which actually makes her financial situation even more stressful and not less. And you know what? She's right. I never thought about it that way, but now there's this weird debt between us that she feels responsible for. Well, ever since this happened, we really haven't talked much since. She sent a few short text messages, but nothing substantial. I think she's really hurt, and I genuinely didn't mean to hurt her. I thought I was doing something nice for her. My roommate says that I'm an idiot and I should have just communicated like a normal person, but my sister says that my heart was in the right place, but my execution was terrible. So right now I don't know how to fix this or if I even can, because this has honestly gotten messy and I don't know what else to do. Okay, first off, I want to say jokingly, if the original poster wants to pay off my debts, I will happily thank you for it. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, I completely understand where your girlfriend's coming from, but also I kind of don't, because dude, what are we talking about here? If my girlfriend did that for me, I absolutely would be like, you are the kindest person in the world, and this is why I love you, because you're willing to step up and help me out when I'm in need without me asking for it. So to that extent, I think your girlfriend is completely overreacting here, and she's acting very irrational in my opinion. But to her point, I completely understand where she's coming from as well. She wants to be independent. She doesn't want to feel like a charity case, but also it's overwhelming. So for their boyfriend to step in unannounced and be like, oh, I paid off your entire balance, that can definitely come off a little condescending, and I can understand why she's upset. But in my opinion, I don't think the original poster is really that much at fault here. In fact, I really think they try to do a good thing, but the girlfriend's just not taking it that way. So yeah, I think you did go about it the wrong way, but I think your intentions were really honest. You really were just trying to help your girlfriend out. You weren't trying to be mean or rude to her. You were just trying to help her get out of debt so she can have at least one area of her life where it's okay, you've got a clean slate. Because honestly, I think the original poster's intentions were very nice and they were not trying to be mean at all. So it really does suck that their girlfriend took this the wrong way and are basically giving them the cold shoulder. Because if my girlfriend did that for me, I would be so happy and I would never treat her like this. My ex-girlfriend broke down in tears, begging for me to take her back after we went on a break. But then, 24 hours later, I found out that she was still sleeping with the same guy she messed around with when we went on break. So I decided to block her literally on everything, resulting in her calling me over 200 times to reach out to me for what I can only assume is her desperate attempts at getting me back together with her. And now I'm kinda wondering if I made a mistake or if I'm justified in any way for doing this, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I really never thought I'd be writing one of these, but here we are because this is honestly crazy. Now, a month ago, I told my then girlfriend that I needed a break and some time to reflect on our relationship for just a little bit, but she said that she didn't want a break, and instead she just wanted to end things, and so that's exactly what we did. Fast forward to a few days ago, and we met up in person and talked about stuff and exchanged items of each other's that we still had, and eventually she told me that she wanted me back and would do anything to make that happen. She also disclosed that she had made out with another guy during our break, which I didn't have a problem with because we were broken up. I mean, it did hurt a little bit that she moved on so fast, but whatever. But I will say the meetup was really messy and there were lots of crying, and she told me that she still loved me. There were a few red flags in our relationship, which is why I broke up in the first place, but I was considering trying things again with her. Then yesterday we catch up again, and I was about to tell her that I wanted to try getting back together, but she told me that she went all the way and slept with the same guy from before, less than 24 hours after she broke down crying, asking me to take her back. Well, I immediately told her that we're done. I blocked her on everything, and I feel really good about it. I mean, she made the whole getting back together decision incredibly easy for me. But then she proceeded to call me over 200 times over the next 4 hours to try and reach me. So I need to know, did I overreact to her sleeping with someone else right after she told me she wanted me to take her back? Because with all things considered, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, in my opinion, I think you dodged a train, bro. Like, if I were you, I would be moonwalking into the sunset, bro. Like, what is going on right now? She called you 200 times over the next 4 hours trying to call you. Like, that's almost a call every single minute for 4 hours. And I don't know about you, but that's about 197 more calls than I would make if I'm trying to reach out to someone. Like, even calling someone more than 3 times is obnoxious. But to call 200 times, like, that is some crazy numbers there. And my God, she's literally still playing around with this other guy less than 24 hours after her being like, we need to get back together, I miss you. Because it's like, yeah, okay, you clearly don't miss me that much, like, what are you doing? So no, dude, you did not overreact. Your ex-girlfriend sounds like a nut job, and I think you could find someone way better for you in the future. Am I the jerk for kicking my roommate's boyfriend out of our shared apartment last night after he threw a chopping board at my head, all because I asked him to move out of the way so I could make some food? Because right now things are very tense, and at this point I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out and give some context, I live with my housemate, and my housemate's boyfriend comes over a lot, but ever since Christmas, he has practically been living here, using utilities, our groceries, and basically not contributing financially at all. He takes hour-long showers and has no regard for electricity either. I used to live in a college dorm room and I didn't like it one bit. I just wanted to have some privacy and a place for myself, so I decided to move in with one of my really close friends. We split our expenses right down the middle, and we use our resources carefully. And I've never had a problem with her. That is, until her boyfriend started staying over consecutively for the past 3 weeks. Yesterday, for example, he was cooking in our kitchen and I was in a rush to head out. I then asked him if he could let me use the kitchen for just a little bit and that he could finish up after I'm done since I really had to leave soon. And just to add a little bit more context, he usually doesn't have much going on during the night, so he could have easily given me the time to use the kitchen and just continued later on. But to my surprise, he got extremely mad, and he ended up yelling and throwing a temper tantrum. My housemate overheard it and came to check on what was going on, and as she stepped into the kitchen, he picked up the chopping board he was using with all the vegetables still on it, and he threw it at me. And even though it barely hurt me, I just think that it was an outrageous thing to do, and I need to feel safe in my own house without having to deal with a grown man throwing a temper tantrum for the slightest inconvenience. What surprised me even more is when my roommate took his side and told me that I should have let him finish cooking before I stepped in. I'm still in shock thinking about what happened, but I'm also more hurt about the fact that my roommate took his side when he doesn't even live here. For about 30 minutes, we were all going back and forth, arguing and just going at each other. And finally, my roommate tried to calm things down and got all 3 of us to sit down and talk. And the first words that came out of this man's mouth was that he couldn't talk about something like this with us, and that he needed another man in the room. And my God, I was fuming when he said that. From that very moment, I wanted this man out of my house, and I threw a verbal temper tantrum myself till he ended up leaving. My roommate said that I was overreacting and that I should have handled it more maturely, but I was just reciprocating his energy. So am I the jerk in this situation for like freaking out on this guy? Because I'm still pissed off about it and I don't know what to do. Okay, I don't care what your roommate has to say or any kind of argument against why you said what you did. The fact that this guy threw a chopping board at you, like that alone is more than enough of a reason for me to be like, oh, not only am I calling the police, but I'm also banning you from this place forever. Because what do you mean he threw it at you? All he had to do was step out of the way so you could make some food and then be on your way. This guy doesn't even live here and he's trying to act like he has some kind of say over who can and cannot go in the kitchen. He has no right to sit there and get argumentative and then get violent with you and expect any of this to be okay in the slightest. So no, you are not the jerk. You did not overreact. In my opinion, I think you underreacted. And it's also so disappointing that your roommate took his side, because of course she would. Of course she doesn't see that this guy is toxic, and what starts as him throwing chopping boards at you pretty soon leads to him throwing the same things at her. And if she can't see that, then that is honestly her fault and not yours. My girlfriend of 7 years constantly wakes me up on my days off at 4 o'clock in the morning, as she says that she wants to spend time with me, despite the fact that I'm exhausted from my job and I simply just want to sleep. And despite the fact that I've explained this to her many times, she still refuses to listen, waking me up anyways and just completely ruining my mornings. And at this point, I am considering breaking up with her over this situation, because after exhausting all of my options, I really don't know what to do next. Here's what's going on. To start things off, my girlfriend and I have been together for 7 years, and pretty much the entire time, there's always been some tension about how much I sleep. In 2022, she switched to the weekend shift at her job, and as a result, has to be at work at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And you know what? At first, it wasn't a big deal. We had opposite work schedules, but for the most part, we respected each other's sleep when we got ready in the morning. But then a year or two ago, because we both work Mondays, she started waking up with me at 4 in the morning. We would both get up and eat breakfast together, and then I would leave. Then she started waking up at 4 in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays too, and I didn't think this would be a problem, but she started waking me up as well. It started with her just turning on the bedroom light and like watching a show while she ate breakfast and had a coffee. It wasn't the end of the world and I could usually sleep through it, but then she started waking me up to let the dogs out and feed them so she could focus on getting herself ready in the morning. Now, I really didn't understand why it was necessary for me to do it, because she was giving herself an hour and a half to get ready, but you know what? I didn't argue. I would get up, I would take care of the dogs, and then I would go right back to sleep. Some days I would be so exhausted from the day before that I would sleep through her alarm and the lights and the TV coming on, at which point she would get angry with me for making her have to take care of the dogs on top of her morning routine. Then she began demanding that I spend time with her in the morning. After she ate breakfast, she would jump into bed and start cuddling with me. Now, I'm not against cuddling my girlfriend, but when it's 4 in the morning on a Saturday and you have fresh coffee breath suddenly invading your nostrils while you get shook around by someone trying to force you to wake up, it's really not that hard to have a negative reaction. I've tried talking to her about it. I've expressed dozens of times in a dozen different ways that I want to sleep on my days off and that I don't want to be up at 4 in the morning every single day of the week. But she always responds by saying one of a few things. She'll say, oh, you can always go back to bed after I leave. Or she'll say, oh, I just want to spend time with you because we only get a couple of hours together at the end of the day. She'll also throw in there, I mean, everyone's tired in the morning. You just have to deal with it. But regardless of her response, every time I say something, it ends in a fight, with her saying that she wishes I liked spending time with her and loved her more. It's getting to the point where I'm considering ending the relationship because I'm constantly tired. Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the way your girlfriend's acting is very entitled and very selfish. She clearly doesn't care that you have days off that you absolutely want to sleep in. And for her to sit there and be like, oh no, everybody's tired. You can always go back to bed when I leave. I need you up right now. Like, that is some narcissistic stuff in my opinion. She's sitting there trying to be like, I'm gonna dominate all your time whether you like it or not. And I don't know about you, but that would drive me insane. And I would probably feel the same way. I would probably start considering as well ending the relationship because this is exhausting. Like, literally exhausting. You can't just screw with someone's sleep schedule like that and expect them to be okay with it. Because I know for a fact I would be super pissed off. I would be like, are you kidding me? I've talked to you about this dozens of times. Please stop it. So no, you're not overreacting. Your girlfriend is being a massive jerk right now. And with all things considered, I don't blame you for possibly wanting to end things. Because this is obnoxious and I would hate dealing with this every single day. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting by hiding childhood things in my parents' house, all in some kind of effort to make sure that my sister doesn't get them? Because my sister does not care about these things and is only taking them because I want them. And it's at a point where I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So I recently came to visit my parents and my sister surprised me by also showing up. For context, she and I both live out of state and I haven't seen her or my niece in almost a year, so it was a nice little surprise. It's also important to add that my sister takes things from my parents' house each time she comes to visit. Usually, it's just things that would add a cool vibe to her house, like their retro stereo from the 60s, or maybe my mom's Spice House collection, or my dad's skulls from deers that he's hunted, etc. This really annoys me though, because they both still very much are alive. And it feels disrespectful, but I mind my own business because it's my parents' decision and not mine. Well, this trip was different for me, because I now have a daughter who's 2 years old, and I have been looking forward to passing down my American Doll collection to her ever since my husband and I started our family 11 years ago. The problem is that my sister has made comments that she thinks I'm the favorite, and it makes her angry, so she often inserts herself into whatever I'm doing while I'm visiting my parents. When we were children, my parents also bought her some American Doll things, but given the age difference, my mom basically let me have free reign with everything, except for her doll as soon as my sister stopped playing with dolls. My sister also has daughters, with the oldest being 12 years old, and she has never come to collect any of the items despite multiple requests from our parents to please start taking our things. Well, that is until this trip. Every single time I went to the basement or the garage or through closets, my sister immediately came up beside me and would start grabbing things that she said were originally hers. Part of me understands that my mom probably should have never let me play with those things for literally years, but another part of me feels slighted because she did not care about any of it until I expressed interest in it, even though she's had daughters going on for like 13 years now. Well, I had a bin in our parents' garage going with accessories that I purposefully put to the side just so she wouldn't see it. She's leaving a day sooner than me, so I planned to take it out after she left. Well, unfortunately, she got up early and started hunting through the garage today, and eventually found it and is now taking half of it. I honestly don't know if I need a reality check right now, so seriously, am I overreacting by hiding childhood things from my parents' house, all in an effort to keep my sister from taking all of them? Because right now I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, I think I might have like the outlying opinion here, but I don't think you did anything wrong. It really sounds like your sister only wants it because you want it, and that is obnoxious. I can't stand people like that. Also, I really hope this is a lesson that you probably should not tell your sister anything like this ever again, because her conveniently showing up right when you're there, in my opinion, is absolutely not a coincidence. She probably dropped everything she was doing just to show up and ruin your plans. And the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that yeah, she had a very vindictive reason for showing up, just so you don't get the things that you want, which just really sucks. So no, you had the right idea by hiding all that crap from your sister, because she definitely doesn't appreciate it in the way that you do, and it really just sucks that she found it before you could take it with you. Am I the jerk for not clapping or reacting when my friend announced her promotion in our group chat? Because right now, some of my friends are acting really cold towards me, and at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I'm in a group chat with 5 friends that I've known ever since college. We all work in different fields, but there's a lot of career talk. One friend, who I will call Lily, just got promoted at her job. And honestly, good for her. The thing is, she's been talking about this promotion nonstop for months. Like every hangout, every chat somehow circles back to how unappreciated she is and how obvious it is that she's next in line. When it finally happened, she dropped a long message in the group chat about how hard she's worked and how people doubted her and how this proves something. Everyone else replied immediately with congratulation emojis and all this really good stuff. But when I saw the message, I didn't respond. Not out of spite, mind you. I just didn't feel like adding more noise. I was busy and also kind of emotionally tired of the topic. A few hours later, Lily messaged me privately asking if I saw the news. And I said to her, yes, congrats, I'm happy for you. She then replied with a thumbs up and then said it hurt that I didn't react in the group like everyone else. But I told her I wasn't trying to be rude and that I congratulated her directly. She said that wasn't the same and that it felt dismissive. Now, a couple of people in the group are acting weird. One friend said it costs nothing to hype your friends up and that my silence sent a message. I honestly didn't think not sending emojis was a statement. I didn't criticize her or rain on anything. I just stayed quiet. So am I the jerk for not performing excitedly publicly even though I did acknowledge it privately? What should I do? Okay, this might be a hot take, but in my opinion, I do think the original poster is the jerk here. Let me explain for a second, because this really is like a low barrier of entry. Even if you think Lily is annoying and you don't like the fact that she talks nonstop about getting this promotion, I think as her friend in a group chat where people talk about their job, it really is a good idea to step up and say, oh my gosh, congratulations, or at least send like a congratulations emoji of some kind, just to show that you're involved and that, yeah, you do care. Because by not responding, unfortunately, your friend is right. It sends a message whether you want it to or not, even if you did say congratulations in private, which by the way, just as a reminder, you only say congratulations when Lily reached out directly and not in a way where you did it organically, if that makes sense. And I've got to be honest, I think that really does send a message, and clearly people are picking up on it. If I was in that group chat, it would be like, wow, why did the original poster not react to that? Do they not care about Lily? Do they have some kind of like resentment towards her? Like, what's going on? And then it just snowballs from there, and then people are going to make assumptions, which is not going to help you in the long run at all. So yeah, I do think you're the jerk here, and by not responding, it definitely left a bad taste in pretty much everybody's mouth. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she wasn't the only one affected by our mom's death? Because after she's literally ruined a few of my dad's previous relationships, she now has her sights set on his newest one, as she plans to move in after graduating college just so she can drive her dad away from this woman. Because right now, my sister's not talking to me and I just don't know what to do next. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things out, my mom passed away almost 5 years ago. I was 24 years old at the time and my sister was 17. My sister has always been treated as the baby of the family by all of us, and she did take our mom's passing very hard. According to my dad, she'd have night terrors, and he would go downstairs to get her water. She even stayed with him for the first year of her college career before finally moving out. Well, a couple of years ago, my dad started dating someone, and when he told us, my sister went ballistic, like full-on sobbing and begging him not to. And eventually, the strain of this just led to him breaking it off. And this was the same story repeated once more after that. My dad then told me that she was young and still coming to terms with it, so he wouldn't take anything too far. Fast forward, and since last year, he's been dating another woman who has 2 young boys of her own. My dad seems to really enjoy her company. We've met her a few times, and honestly, I love my dad, and I want him to be happy as well. He's a great guy, and she seems to think so and makes him happy. When he told us he wanted to have us all spend Christmas together, my sister again had an argument. She said that Christmas with him was supposed to be her safe space. We had memories of us as a family with mom, and asked him to please hold off. Well, he said yes, and I knew he would do that, because of course he wasn't going to risk her not coming. Meanwhile, when talking to me, my sister has been asking me repeatedly if I think dad is going to marry this woman. I just said, I don't know, but if he wants to, then I hope he does. Last weekend on the family group chat, my sister talked about moving stuff back to his place. And that's when I learned that she was planning on moving back after she graduates in May, and that my dad had agreed. I was so annoyed. She's pulling the same thing. This is clearly to monopolize his attention and to not let his relationship with his girlfriend proceed any further. Well, I said as much in the group chat, and she said that she just wants to move back to be with dad and in the house where we have mom's memories. At this, I told her to stop weaponizing our mom's death and pretending like she was the only one affected, and that the rest of us loved her less just because we want to look past the grief, that she was being manipulative and moving back in when she had no plans to prior to learning about his girlfriend. Well, my dad kept texting me to shut up, and my sister eventually left the group chat. She then sent me a long text chain, essentially calling me a jerk and that her relationship with dad is her own. My dad says I crossed a line and I should just make up with her, but honestly, him taking her side is what's really hurting me the most. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think the original poster's the jerk because I really think they're right. It really seems like the younger sister is using their mom passing away as an excuse to like hijack their dad's life. And that really sounds obnoxious. Like, the guy is allowed to move on, right? It's been 5 years, and no, that doesn't mean you don't love your mom, but it does mean that your dad deserves to have a full and rich life. And just because he's dating and he loves this woman and her kids doesn't mean that he doesn't love the mom that passed away. Like, come on. Things are a lot more nuanced than that. It can't possibly be that black and white. So in my opinion, I think your younger sister needed a wake-up call. She needed to see that she was being selfish and that she absolutely was making a mistake here. So to that end, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I really think this was some tough love that she needed to embrace, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is way too controlling and very manipulative. Am I the jerk for telling my friend honestly that he will never get a girlfriend if he doesn't put himself out there and actually try in a meaningful way? Because now he's pissed off and telling other people about this, and right now I don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so my friend, who I will call Alex, is 20 years old and has never had a girlfriend before, or even really been close to having one. He's kind of the odd one out within the friend group, since the rest of us either have or at least have had a relationship at some point in our lives. He is sometimes talked about wanting to get a girlfriend, and how he doesn't understand why he seems to have no chance while others do and all that. But I really just don't see a way he'll ever get one if he continues certain behaviors. For example, we have invited him to a lot of parties over the years, and he has refused every single invite because he thinks parties are degenerate. And he feels this way because he's extremely Catholic, and also he doesn't talk to girls because he gets nervous around them, and doesn't try to text girls on Instagram because he thinks it's embarrassing. In fact, he barely leaves the house. If it weren't for college and hanging out with us once or twice a month, he would be at home the entire time. My point is that he sometimes complains how he seemingly has no chance, but the thing is, he hasn't even tried. Now, the thing is, this guy has some good traits. He's smart, and he's a huge history guy. He reads a lot of books, and he's clearly the most cultured man in our friend group. If he just hit the gym a bit more, and he actually tried, I don't really think he'd have a problem getting girls. But now he's kind of accepted 2 years into college that it's virtually impossible, and so far, he's found no luck. But again, he hasn't really tried, so he's just complaining for no reason. The other day we were playing some Counter-Strike, and after that we got into one of those deep night talks. And at some point, Alex brought up how messed up the dating market was, and all of that. And I told him that he can complain all he wants about men, women, society, and how we need to go back to Christian values, as he says. But if he continues being like this, then he will never get a girlfriend. Well, he clearly didn't like it when I said that, and he just went very silent for the rest of the night. Yesterday, another friend who was in the call told me that Alex had told him that it deeply hurt him that I'd said that. And that I basically said to him that he'll never under any circumstance get a girlfriend, which by the way isn't true. I never said that. Personally, I'm not going to say anything to him until he tells me something, because I feel like it's a bit low that he tells somebody else that he feels hurt about my words, but doesn't tell me about it directly. Although I guess that if he keeps feeling bad about it, I will eventually have to talk it out with him. But seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, sure, it's harsh, but it's the truth. Complaining won't get him anywhere if he just keeps behaving like this. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I think you did the right thing, and I think this really shows that you're a good friend. You stepped up and said, hey man, I think you've got it completely backwards. I think your way of looking at all this is completely wrong, and I'm just trying to help you out. And from the sounds of it, based on like what you described, it didn't really sound like you were being a jerk. If anything, you were going to give him some tough love that he definitely needed to hear. The guy's out of his mind if he thinks he can stay home and play Counter-Strike, and that somehow a girl's going to pop up out of nowhere and just be there for him. Like, that's not how it's going to work, dude. You got to get yourself out there and try. So no, you're not the jerk. You were being a good friend. And hopefully one day he'll see that, because I think you did him a favor by being completely honest. An entitled jerk literally expected me to be available at the drop of a hat just so I could do different parts of his job for him. Because after I helped him out one time with this very simple thing, this guy very quickly started to take advantage of me, putting me in a situation where I had to shut him down and put him in his place, which resulted in one of the most awkward conversations I've probably had in a very long time. Here's what happened. Okay, this whole thing has been bugging me because I genuinely can't pinpoint when it flipped from being normal to being weird. For a bit of context, there's this person that I know, who by the way is not a friend of a friend, but instead is just someone I run into through work-related stuff and mutual people. We were always fine. We had light conversations, we were joking around a bit, nothing really that personal. Well, a while back, they asked me for a small favor, like actually small. Took me maybe 10 minutes to do, if that. And at the time, I didn't mind at all, and I honestly forgot about it right afterwards. Except apparently they didn't. After that, I started getting messages again, but phrased in this super casual way of them saying, hey, can you help me with this again really quick? Or they'll say, hey, do you know how to do this right? And at first I thought, okay, whatever. Maybe they're just asking. I helped a couple more times, mostly because I didn't want to be that person who suddenly says no for no reason. But looking back, that was probably a mistake. Somewhere along the way, the asking stopped sounding like asking, and it turned into, oh, I'll need you to do this for me. Or they'll say, oh, you need to take care of that for me. No checking if I was busy, no thanks. It was just a bunch of assumptions. The moment I finally said I couldn't keep doing this, the mood between us changed instantly. They got cold and then passive aggressive, making comments about how they thought I was reliable and the kind of person who helps others. Like that was supposed to guilt me into continuing. I tried explaining that I don't mind helping occasionally, but I'm not comfortable being expected to do things on demand. Well, when I said that, that definitely did not go over well. They acted genuinely offended, like I had broken some unwritten agreement that I didn't even know existed. What still blows my mind line is the confidence behind it. The way they just decided my time and effort were available to them, all because I said yes once. I keep replaying it, thinking, did I somehow signal this? Did I miss something obvious? But honestly, it just feels like entitlement creeping in quietly until you finally push back and suddenly you're the bad guy. Because this left me very confused, and honestly, I'm kind of glad to be done with them. Okay, I love the fact that the person in the story tried to be like, oh, I thought you were the kind of person who helps other people. Why are you not being reliable now? Because what they're really saying is like, dude, why are you not letting me manipulate you? Like, come on, seriously. I just want someone to do my work for me. Come on, let's go back to the way it was. Like, holy crap, that is obnoxious. I would hate dealing with someone like that. Just because you do a small favor for someone like one time doesn't mean they now have full access to you all the time at the drop of a hat, bro. Like, I've got a life to live of my own. I've got my own stuff going on. You can't honestly expect me to like stop everything I'm doing just to do this thing for you that, by the way, you're not even asking me to do. You're just saying, I'm gonna need you to take care of that. Like, what are we talking about right now? That's so silly. So good for you for putting your foot down and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't keep this up. This is weird. Because the person demanding it of you is completely out of line and they had no business treating you this way. Am I the jerk for pulling back from my neighbor after he basically started to assume that any plans he was doing on the weekend also included me? Because after I corrected that and said that, hey, I kind of need some time alone, he's been very standoffish and the vibe is just completely off. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I moved into this apartment building a little over a year ago and pretty quickly got along with the neighbor next door. It was never some deep friendship or anything like that, and it was more like something that was just convenient and familiar. We'd talk in the hallway, complain about random stuff, sometimes grab a coffee if we were both free, that kind of thing. It felt really chill because there were no expectations, just two people being friendly because we lived close by. Well, at some point that dynamic slowly shifted, and I don't even know exactly when it happened. He started texting me stuff like, we're heading out later, or he would start saying stuff like, oh, we're doing something Saturday, instead of asking if I wanted to join in. At first, I kind of went along with it, partly because I didn't really mind, and partly because I didn't want to make things weird, since, well, we see each other all the time. But over the last month or so, I've been more tired and busy and honestly just craving being alone after work. So when he sent another message about plans, I replied that I wasn't feeling it and I just wanted to stay in. Well, ever since then, the vibe has been off. He replies with one-word answers, barely makes eye contact, and it feels awkward in a way it never did before. A few days ago, he even stopped me in the hallway and asked if he had done something wrong, like I was mad at him or something. But I told him no, not at all. I just don't always want to hang out, and sometimes I need my own space. He didn't argue, but you could tell it definitely hit him harder than I expected. He just nodded and eventually just walked off. And now I keep replaying it in my head, wondering if I messed up by not setting that boundary earlier or explaining things more gently. At the same time, it feels strange that being neighbors and casually hanging out turned into this unspoken obligation. I didn't mean to hurt him, I just didn't want to pretend I was into plans that I wasn't. So yeah, now I'm stuck wondering if I handled this like a jerk or if this was just one of those uncomfortable but normal situations. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Clearly your neighbor was like trying to set some kind of weird precedent of him almost like expecting you to have plans set with him instead of like asking you if you want to go out and do something. And that's kind of like a weird dynamic that I don't think is appropriate, especially for friends that are still getting to know each other. He can't just expect you to be available right at the drop of a hat like that and almost like telling you what you're going to be doing for the weekend. And I don't know about anybody else, but if someone did that to me, I would be a little bit weirded out. So no, you're not the jerk. This is definitely just one of those normal things, and I think if he's handling it weird, then that's on him and absolutely not your fault. My wife's psycho nephew keeps stealing from my son, as he's constantly going into my son's room ever since he and his mom moved into our house and just literally takes whatever he wants. But after he broke something very expensive, I finally snapped, as I decided to put a lock on my son's door until these people are finally out of the house. And now at this point, my wife and her sister are all against this idea, saying that I'm treating them like a criminal, despite the fact that this kid is stealing all this stuff from my son. And now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong, and I seriously don't know what to do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife's sister lost her apartment a while back and moved in with us alongside her son, who is 17 years old. For reference, my son is 15 years old. They never really hung out before, but I figured they'd get along fine sharing the house. Well, the problem started almost immediately. Her nephew has no concept of boundaries. He walks into my son's room whenever he wants and just takes things. And we're talking stuff like video games, headphones, chargers, etc. Even one time, he took some money from my son. Now, my son complained multiple times, and I talked to the kid about it, but nothing changed. My wife and her sister kept brushing it off, saying they're boys and this is just what they do, that they will figure it out, but I disagreed. The final straw was when my son saved up for weeks to buy a limited edition controller that he really wanted. And trust me, this thing wasn't cheap. Well, a few days after he got it, the nephew took it without asking and broke it and said that it slipped. He didn't even apologize properly. Well, needless to say, my son was crushed. So I went and got a lock for his door. When my wife's sister and her son saw it, they were offended. She said I was treating her son like a criminal, that borrowing stuff between boys living together is normal, that my son shouldn't have expensive things if he can't share. She even said I was spoiling him and creating bad habits. Worst of all, my wife took her side, said I embarrassed her family by putting a lock on the door, and actually demanded that I take it off. But I told her the lock stays until her sister and nephew are out of our house. She got upset and said I was threatening to kick them out, but I reminded her that I was the one who agreed to let them stay in the first place when no one else in her family would. Her own parents said no, her brother said no, but I said yes. And now I'm being treated like the bad guy for protecting my son's space. I just want my kid to feel safe in his own room. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I really don't know what else to do. Okay, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This is some crazy behavior. You mean to tell me this kid is taking all this stuff from your son's room and your wife and her sister are trying to be like, oh, they're just being boys. Boys will be boys. Don't worry about it. They'll sort it out. It's fine. But it's like, bro, it is not fine. This lady's demon spawn destroyed this kid's controller and said, oh, it just slipped. Sorry about that. But in reality, if he wasn't even in like his room in the first place, none of this would have happened. Which also begs the question, why is that kid going in there all the time? He's taking stuff over and over again. And clearly the son in this situation is like, wow, can this please stop? Are you kidding me right now? And I know for a fact if someone broke something of mine that I spent a long time saving up for, only to be met with like these really lame excuses, I would be very pissed off and probably never trust that person ever again. So in my opinion, I think putting a lock on that door was like the only option at this point. Literally everybody in this house, including your own wife, is against you on this. But it's like, lady, do you even care about your son? Do you even care a little bit that all of his stuff is getting stolen by your nephew? Like, holy crap, why are you okay with this? This is so annoying. Because this isn't even like this kid borrowing stuff and being like, hey, I'll give it back. This literally just looks like stealing, period. There's nothing being shared. It's all just being taken from him. So no, you're not the jerk for putting a lock on the door. Because these people are crossing so many boundaries and just obvious social norms, it's just not even funny. Especially when it comes to like staying in someone else's house. Like, are you serious right now? Because this behavior is super toxic and you guys do not deserve to deal with it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend let herself into my apartment using my hidden key, all because I wasn't answering my phone. And now as a result, I feel like a huge boundary has been crossed in my life. Because right now I'm really upset about this, and I just don't know what to do about it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my girlfriend of 6 months essentially let herself into my apartment, all because I fell asleep and I wasn't answering my phone. For reference, she doesn't have a key. I've never given her one, not because I'm hiding anything, but just because I don't want to. I also have a roommate, so it's not purely my call. She stays over a lot, but that doesn't mean she has open access to the place. She also has her own place that she lives in. Now, my security are supposed to call beforehand, which they did, but because I didn't answer, they just let her up. She knew where my hidden key was because she had seen me use it before, so when I didn't pick up, she came over and just let herself in. When I confronted her about it, she acted like it was normal, like being worried justified it, but honestly, I felt violated. This also isn't the first boundary issue that I've had. She's been pushing for us to share locations, which I've said no to, and she previously asked for a key in case she can't reach me, but honestly, I just don't want to do that either. This then led to an argument and her saying that even her friends think it's weird that she doesn't have a key here. But guess what? I couldn't care less. I don't want anybody to have unrestricted access to my personal space. She leaves stuff in my place constantly, which I really don't mind. However, whenever I want some alone time and I message her after work, she says something like, oh, my things are here. We see each other basically every day, but I'd also like to take time to myself too. To me, if you can't reach someone, you just wait for them. You don't decide you're entitled to enter their home. Like, I would never do that to her or anyone else. So seriously, is this just how relationships work out and I'm just being weird about it? Or maybe I'm just being an avoidant person because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, anyone just letting themselves into your apartment, especially a girlfriend of 6 months, is kind of someone that I probably would not want to be with because that is a huge violation of privacy. Like seriously, I don't think that's appropriate at all. I'm sure you love your girlfriend and you really enjoy being around her, but dude, in my opinion, I think you've got it right. Sometimes you need some alone time just to like unwind and decompress. I'm also not really a fan of sharing locations because that's also a massive invasion of my privacy too. Like I shouldn't have to prove where I'm at just for you to trust me. I think that's very weird and a little too pushy in my opinion. So for her to essentially extend that by being like, okay, I'm just gonna break into the apartment that he lives in and his roommate live in. Everything's normal. Everyone always does this. Like in my opinion, I don't think that's normal and I don't think that's okay. Because you really do deserve some privacy and you have a right to having a private space that no one has unrestricted access to. And in my opinion, I think your girlfriend crossed a very serious boundary. Am I the jerk for not reminding my friend about a deadline that she literally kept joking about ignoring? Because after she forgot about it for work, she tried to blame this on me, despite the fact that I tried to help her out, but she shut me down. And now she's pissed off at me and saying this is kind of my fault somehow, and I'm honestly just not sure what to do from here. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I have a friend who I will call Jess for the sake of the story, who is very smart, but also chronically disorganized. And by the way, this is something she jokes about all the time, by saying stuff like, oh my god, I thrive in chaos. That kind of stuff, I think you know what I mean. Well, recently we both applied for the same internal training program at work, and it only takes a few people, and it's a pretty big deal for career growth. Now, the deadline for this was clearly stated, and there were multiple reminder emails. Jess kept saying things like, yeah, I'll do it later. Or she would say, well, if I miss it, it's just fate saying that I wasn't meant to have it. I reminded her once casually, and she just laughed and said, you don't need to be my mom. So you know what? I dropped it. I finished my application early, and I did not mention it again. Well, the night of the deadline passed, and she texted me freaking out because she forgot to submit it. She then asked if I could email human resources for her or say that there was like a technical issue. But you know what? I said no. I told her that I didn't think it was my place and that the deadline had been very clear. She then got upset and said that real friends look out for each other and that I knew how important this was to her. I said I did, but she also made it clear that she didn't want reminders. But when I said that, that just made her angrier. She accused me of secretly wanting her to fail so I'd have a better chance at getting it. As a result, she's now barely talking to me, and a mutual friend said that I could have just reminded her one last time instead of being technically correct. But I honestly didn't think it was my responsibility, and also I didn't want to be blamed later if she still didn't do it. So am I the jerk for staying out of it and letting her miss her own deadline? Because now I'm honestly not sure where to go from here. Okay, no, you're not the jerk. Your friend just sucks. She's one of those people who refuses to organize her life in some kind of like substantial way, and yet still expects you and pretty much everybody around her to babysit her and hold her hand through important things in her life. Like, by the way, the person who's named Jess in this story is a grown adult. We're talking a 32-year-old female who should have her life figured out. Do you really need your friend to hold your hand and give you reminders after you literally said, oh, don't be my mom, I don't need that? Like, okay, so which one is it? Do you need reminders or do you not? Because if you forget to do it and then come back to me and say, why didn't you remind me? I'm gonna go right back to our conversation where you said, oh, don't do that. So no, this is not your problem. Like, that is absolutely how I would feel, especially since you did try to help out in the beginning. Because at the end of the day, Jess cannot have it both ways. It doesn't work like that. And if she missed out on this opportunity, then that is literally on her back and nobody else's. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that everyone in the family thinks that she's greedy and inconsiderate? Because after years of watching her get free money pretty much from everybody, with her never reciprocating or giving anything back in kind, I kind of hit a breaking point where I said some things that I really am now regretting. And at this point, I don't know how to either take them back or even how to fix the situation, because things have gotten really messy and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all happened. Okay, so I went to lunch recently with my sister, who I will call Casey, and we were discussing an upcoming sibling trip. I made a joking comment along the lines of, maybe you should cover my plane ticket since you've never paid for a single time we've gone out to eat. And I really was joking, but guess what? She got really pissed off. For context, Casey truly has never paid for food during an outing. She never reciprocates when someone buys her something just because. She never offers favors, never offers to help when someone says they're in a crisis, and only runs errands for people when she'll get flack for not doing so. She asked me to use my food stamps on her groceries while I was homeless, despite the fact that she's been living living rent-free with our dad, saying that she was broke. And it took me years to pry it out of her that she had never dropped below $600 in her bank account at the time, while I was literally close to penniless. So seriously, she's just always been this way. After my joke, she went off on me for how bitter and money-minded I've been lately, but I told her I'm not money-minded. She's just never offered to reciprocate when someone else has spent money on her. She then angrily replied that my actions were voluntary and that I was being transactional for expecting her to do something for me in return. I then tried to explain to her that normal people want to do something kind when someone does kind things for them. And I even said that she was just being shrewd with money because she's saving for a big purchase. So I reminded her that I also have big purchases that I want to make, and so does our brother, who also spends considerable amounts of money on her. But we somehow make time for her and set money aside for her birthdays and Christmas presents. She then once again hit me with this, "Oh, that's all voluntary" thing, but at this point I snapped. I said to her, "Yeah, and the fact that you won't do any of that voluntarily makes you incredibly cheap. Everyone in this family thinks that you're greedy and you only think about yourself." Well, we very quickly left after that. The conversation continued over text messaging, and it was basically the same. She told me I was being toxic and that she was done proving herself to this family, when I think she's done nothing to prove that she so much as thinks about other people. I aired some older grievances out, which I honestly should not have done. I mean, they were irrelevant, but she just left my message on read. She then called our brother and told him to cancel the trip, which is when I started feeling really crappy about this. He told me I shouldn't have brought all this up, that money isn't worth fighting over, and that I should apologize to get her to still go with us. The more I think about it though, the more I wonder if by making my comment on her supposed greediness, and by saying that everyone thinks you are instead of saying that I think you are, I think that as a result, I really did hurt her feelings. I mean, everyone in the family has commented on her lack of consideration for others, but she didn't need to know that. I didn't mean to vent all of that during lunch. So, was it fair to bring up all of that, or am I being a jerk and making it about money? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're totally the jerk, but I do agree when you say that that kind of was not necessary to bring up, especially when it comes to like how other people think about her. I think you totally could have been like, "Yeah, I think you're very rude and you're very greedy," and that would have been totally fine. But to bring in everybody else's private opinion that they've probably never shared with her by saying, "Oh yeah, the entire family thinks you're greedy," I think that sets a precedent that is very scary and one that is going to be really hard to get over. Because now she's probably operating as if like, "Oh wow, my family hates me. There's no way I'm going on this trip now." So I think you could have done that maybe like a little bit differently, but also it is true. Like from what you're describing, it seems like she's very selfish and she will happily take any money you offer her. So no, you're not totally the jerk. Like it sounds like your sister needed to hear that, because in my opinion, it sounds like your sister takes advantage of pretty much everyone in the family, and that is not fair for anybody in the slightest. Am I the jerk for making my wife ride in the back seat while we were visiting my in-laws about 4 hours away? Because the entire time, she literally couldn't stop distracting me when I was driving in heavy traffic and some bad weather. Because after the fact, she said that I humiliated her, even though I did what I had to do just so we could get home. And at this point, I feel like I messed up and I'm not sure what to do to try and make it right. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened over the holidays and my wife is still upset with me over it. For a bit of context, our family went to visit my in-laws for New Year's, and it's about a 4-hour drive in total. It's mostly highway, but it does take us through like 2 metro areas with pretty significant traffic. Now, my wife gets nervous about driving in traffic, so I always drive when we visit her family. She also tends to get car sick on longer drives and needs to sit in the front seat to help ease it. She has tried taking Dramamine in the past, but she's had an allergic reaction to it, so she doesn't take it anymore. Now, I love my wife with all of my heart, but she is not good at sitting in the front seat. She makes huge reactions to any change in traffic, grabbing the handle, putting her hand on the dashboard, gasping, telling me to watch out, etc. It's not like I'm an aggressive or risky driver either. I've never gotten a speeding ticket or ever been in an accident. But if there's a car a half a mile ahead of us that puts on their brakes, she freaks out and acts like we're all about to die. It's incredibly distracting. I've talked to her multiple times about how her reactions actually makes it more difficult for me to concentrate on driving, but she says she can't control herself because she is so nervous in traffic. Well, on the way to her family's place, she sat up front with me and traffic was pretty bad. Lots of slowdowns due to the weather conditions, and in general, just kind of a slow going. But I've been driving in cold weather my entire life. I know how to control my speed and give lots of extra space to any surrounding cars. I understand that you can't control anyone else on the road and that accidents happen, but I do everything in my control to keep my car and the people inside of it safe. Well, the entire drive, my wife is on the edge, making all the reactions I mentioned. It is very distracting to have someone next to you doing that sort of thing while driving. I mentioned this to my wife numerous times on the drive, and she always deflected blame at me for the way I was driving. Well, when we were getting ready to head back home, I told my wife that she needs to sit in the back, and our 14-year-old will sit up front with me. I told her it's either that or she drives us home. She then got upset with me and started giving excuses about her car sickness, but I told her to take some NyQuil or something else to help her sleep, but she refused to do so and told me that I'm being a jerk. But I told her, okay, well then you can drive. But she even refused to do that too. Eventually, she reluctantly got in the back seat with our 11-year-old daughter. The ride home was much easier traffic-wise, and my wife sat pretty much silent in the back seat the entire time, just pouting. When we got home, she told me that she felt sick the entire drive, but didn't say anything because she didn't want to make a big deal out of anything. She told me I humiliated her by making her sit in the back and that I should be more considerate of her feelings. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because I don't know what to do to try and make this right. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk because this is so obnoxious. Your wife is literally distracting you while you're driving. Like, is she being serious right now? I'm assuming it was probably like snowy or even just a little bit icy. And as someone who has lived up north, holy crap, you need to know what you're doing on the road. You need to have full awareness of like what's going on around you and what other cars are doing. And you kind of have to have a good idea of like a game plan if something goes south. So for your wife to sit there and be like, oh my God, we're gonna die. There's a car ahead of us. Stop, don't hit him. And like freaking out and grabbing the handle above her head. Like, dude, you gotta relax. This is not helping anything. In fact, it's probably gonna make everything worse when you're trying to concentrate. So to that extent, I completely understand where you're coming from, where it's like, okay, you have got to sit in the back seat. I can't deal with this. This is way too much for me. And you are literally putting me on edge while I'm trying to drive through this snow. So no, you're not the jerk. If she really wanted to have some kind of like spot up front, then she can either take a nap or like learn to calm down or like maybe go to a doctor for like anxiety or something like that. Because holy crap, this is completely unacceptable. And worst of all, it was for 4 hours, bro. I would lose my mind if I had to deal with that for 4 hours. Like after 2 hours of constant just stress and anxiety on her part, I would probably be tempted to be like, okay, we're turning around. I'm going home. I can't take this anymore. Because the way she was acting was completely unacceptable. And if she didn't like sitting in the back seat, then she can learn how to calm down and just be relaxed while someone else is driving. Because freaking out like that is not going to help anybody in that scenario. Am I the jerk for getting our parents involved when my brother used my money without my permission? Because right now he's pissed as he felt it could have been handled privately, even though I still decided to get our parents involved and make sure this doesn't happen again. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I have a brother who I will call Leo for the sake of the story. I love Leo very much, but one thing that's made it a bit tough to be around him is that he can be very self-centered and entitled at times. For example, whenever our family is going to a restaurant or fast food place somewhere, my brother always has his own suggestion on where to go and always sulks a bit when his idea isn't chosen. However, what he's done now crosses the line from entitlement to straight up theft. About 2 years ago, I was flying out of my hometown for 2 weeks to go to a national math convention with some classmates and teachers from my high school. During said convention, I got really hungry at one point, and I tried to get some food at a nearby store. However, the store wouldn't accept cash, which was all I had at the time. To avoid this happening to me again at the next convention a year later, my parents gave me a Visa gift card with a little over $200 on it. However, I ended up not using the card at all, and my parents just let me keep it. Well, a few months ago, I started using the card to buy games on Steam on my computer. I was keeping track of how much money was left on the card in my head, and I thought it had around $180 left on it. However, when I tried to buy 2 new games today, the card was declined. I checked how much money was left, and there was about $32 left over, and some payments that I did not remember making. Well, I immediately began to suspect that Leo had taken my card, because for one, the card was still where I always leave it, and number 2, he had taken my school-issued laptop without asking a few years ago, which trust me is an entirely different story in and of itself. Now, instead of confronting him, however, I went to our mom and I told her that someone else had been using my Visa gift card. When I showed the payments I didn't make to her, we discovered a payment from an Applebee's that's in our hometown. At this point, I was totally sure that Leo had taken it, and my mom suspected it too. When she called him into the room, Leo immediately admitted that he had used the card to buy Applebee's and a DoorDash gift card on Amazon, and holy crap, my mom and dad were furious. At first, he wasn't really angry, but he was defending himself by saying stuff like, "My paycheck from work this week wasn't as much as I thought it was gonna be, and I was just really mad." And he said, "Well, I was gonna replace it as soon as I was able to because I didn't think that anyone would notice." But when I told Leo that I suspected it was him before I even went to our mom, he got really mad at me. He said it would have been better if I had just gone to him first and not gotten our parents involved. Now, while I was and still am mad with Leo, I'm beginning to wonder if he may have been right. I don't think I'm the jerk for speaking speaking out, but my mom was in tears, and I feel bad for her. So am I the jerk for getting our parents involved when my brother used my money without my permission? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, in my opinion, I don't care who you are. If you're gonna steal from me, you can expect the worst consequences I can possibly come up with. And if that includes getting my parents involved in this situation, then congratulations, mom and dad are gonna yell at you, and this is absolutely not my problem. Like, come on, dude, you can't just take someone's gift card like that, regardless of whatever circumstance you're trying to make up in your head, and then try to act like this is something that you can even begin to justify. I don't care what your paycheck is, and I don't care that you plan on replacing it. You should not have taken it in the first place. Like, dude, what are you doing? This also really sucks because it's like, dude, not only is there like no trust between us anymore, if there was any in the first place, according to what the original poster's saying, but also if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be hesitant to trust my brother with literally anything of mine in the future. We're talking locking things down, making sure my door's locked at the end of the day. Like, I would no longer trust him with anything I have going on because chances are he's gonna steal it. Like, this is a serious bridge that he crossed, and the fact that he stole from you once means that he absolutely could do it again. So no, you're not the jerk. This guy deserved to have a wake-up call. He can't just steal from you and think he's gonna get away with it, or that he's gonna replace it before you notice, because regardless, it is still wrong and he should not have done it in the first place. My entitled sister refuses to invite my husband to her wedding, as she claims she's trying to avoid conflict as she has a problem with my husband. But once I found out that my ex-boyfriend was also invited to the wedding, I realized that things were definitely not as they seem, as I chose right then and there to take a stand and say that no, if my husband's not going, then neither am I. Putting me in a weird situation because now the entire family is ganging up on me, saying that I'm overreacting and that I just need to go to the wedding to keep the peace. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do, and I'm seriously so frustrated because all of this has just gotten completely out of control. Here's how it all started. Okay, to start things off, I'm married to my husband and my younger sister is getting married this summer. Honestly, we've never been super close, but we've always managed to keep things civil and functional. Then a few weeks ago, I get the wedding invitation addressed only to me, with no mention of my husband at all. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I mean, we've been married for 3 years. We always show up to family stuff together, and he's never been treated like an outsider, at least not to my face. So I call my sister to figure out what's going on. And guess what? It wasn't a mistake. She straight up told me that she's keeping the wedding drama-free and that she didn't want my husband there. The reason why is because apparently they don't agree on political views. And just to be clear, my husband is quiet, polite, and keeps to himself. And there's never been any drama between them. My sister is blunt and opinionated, sure, but that's no reason to exclude him. There's literally no big fight or reason for this cold shoulder. But this is what really stings about this entire situation. My ex-boyfriend was also invited. This is the same guy I dated for nearly 5 years in my 20s, broke up with over 7 years ago, and haven't spoken to ever since then. My sister and him stayed friends, and she secretly even had a crush on him, which I never liked, but I also tolerated because I didn't want family drama. But to openly invite him over my husband, that's beyond disrespectful. It feels like she's saying that my marriage is optional and my past relationship is somehow easier to accept. So I flat out told her I am not going to the wedding without my husband, and I'm not sending a gift either. If she can't see my husband as part of my life and family, then I'm not going to pretend everything's fine and celebrate like there's nothing wrong. I wasn't trying to start drama, by the way. I just needed to set a boundary in some way. She then called me petty and accused me of punishing her for setting her boundaries. She insists that it's not about disrespecting my marriage, but instead it's about wanting a peaceful wedding day. And now my parents are stepping in, saying that I'm overreacting and that I should just go alone for a few hours to keep the peace. They think that refusing a gift is also taking it too far. Now, I truly see that choosing my ex over my husband and expecting me to smile through it is not in my capacity, and I simply won't allow that. My husband even says that he doesn't want to be the reason I miss the wedding, which makes this all the more painful. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Should I go to the wedding and just deal with it? Or should I stand my ground and stay with my husband? Because right now I'm very offended and I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is so stupid. What are they doing? These people are literally being like, hey, there's no problem here, but just in case, let me make some problems. Like, there's no reason to be treating the original poster's husband like this. Like, from the sounds of it, your sister's clearly been talking to the original poster's ex for probably far too long. And I bet the only reason they said, hey, we're not going to invite the husband, so that this ex could attend the wedding. Like, dude, what are we talking about? Which is so weird to me because it's like, dude, this really could have been an easy thing where the ex could be there and the original poster could be there and there would be no no problems. But if this ex-boyfriend is feeling a certain way about the original poster getting married, then that's for them to deal with and not for you to be punished for. Like, do you see what I'm getting at here? It kind of seems like the younger sister is facilitating this beef that clearly is not present amongst anyone else in the family except between the younger sister and this ex-boyfriend. Like, I'm willing to assume they've had talks about, oh yeah, the original poster should have married me instead of this other guy. Hey, don't invite him to the wedding. I don't want there being any drama. When in reality, there's never been any drama to speak of, bro. Like, what's happening right now? This is literally coming out of left field as if like this is some well-known fact. When in reality, it sounds like the original poster and the husband are just living happy lives, and they don't even think about this ex-boyfriend that clearly the original poster is over and done with. So no, you are not the jerk here, bro. I would be so pissed off if I was in this situation. I would be like, why are you punishing my husband all because my ex-boyfriend is going to be there? And you can also tell that it's a complete lie that it's like, oh yeah, I don't want there to be any drama. He has different political views than me. It's like, bro, that is not even what's going on. That's complete garbage, because it's pretty obvious there's a lot of things happening under the surface that I think anybody can probably pick up on. And if that really is the case, then the younger sister is a piece of garbage. And that would give me, if I was in this situation, all the justification in the world to be like, no, if you're going to exclude my spouse, then guess what? I'm not showing up either, which I feel is completely the right thing to do in this situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving my vacation day to a coworker who's literally getting married and requests that I give it up so that she can have it? Because after I said no, she and pretty much the rest of my coworkers have been a little bit standoffish to an extent that is really concerning. And I'm honestly not sure if I'm the jerk or not, and I don't know what to do to fix this. Here's what happened. Okay, so my job does vacation days by seniority, and we submit the bulk of our vacation requests at the same time every year. So you kind of need to plan ahead if you have big plans, or you need to work around the days that are still available after we submit all of our leave requests. When we did this process in March of 2025, I submitted a request for the day after Martin Luther King Day in January of 2026. Now, the day after a holiday is brutal at my job. There is a lot more work to do, and you often end up stuck there late. In fact, I have frequently tried to get the day after a federal holiday off. Well, lucky me, there was one slot available, and I was the only person to request it, so I got it. Well, fast forward to December of 2025, and a coworker approaches me and tells me that she's getting married. This is top secret information, and she is only telling a few people, but she would really like me to let her know if I can cancel my vacation day so that she can put on for it. Now, she was able to get like 6 days off for this secret wedding, but she really wanted my day off as well. So I had to say to myself, okay, that's fine, I'll let you know. And I could tell she was expecting me to immediately agree because she seemed kind of dejected. But then a day or two later, she tells me that she doesn't want it anymore. So I said, okay, I mean, I probably wasn't going to cancel it anyway, so whatever. But she said she thinks I would have because it is a big deal. After this, our relationship at work was about the same, which is to say that I hardly know this woman and we're not friends or anything like that. We're just cordial coworkers. Not long after the vacation day request, there was a point where we were being forced to work overtime based on our seniority level, she being the first in line and me being the second. She then asked me if I would trade spots with her because she had something going on after work, and I said, well, I didn't really want to do that. After that point, she has stopped talking to me entirely. Well, a couple of my other coworkers now seem a bit standoffish towards me, and I can only speculate that it is because of something that she said, but I don't really know for sure. Look, I'm not doing anything on my vacation day. I just don't want to work that day. I put in for that day off almost a year ago, and I didn't want to work overtime that other day either, but I don't have a ton going on. Like, flat out, I just didn't want to. But it makes me wonder, like, maybe I should have just helped my coworker out just a bit more. So with all that in mind, am I the jerk for not canceling my vacation day? Because right now I kind of feel bad and I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, if someone really wants you to give up their spot, they would be more forward about it, and they would not do this like passive-aggressive crap when you're like, hey, I think I'm just gonna keep that, sorry. Like, for starters, you don't even know this person, and it's like, dude, you took off that time because you needed it, and I really don't think one more day is gonna like make or break this person's like marriage. So no, you're not the jerk, you're completely justified in keeping the spot you have, and if this coworker has a problem with that, then that's something they need to figure out, and not you. Am I the jerk for refusing to learn sign language for my coworker? All because her boyfriend's deaf and she thinks it would be a good thing for the office to learn. But despite the fact that I'm already learning Spanish for my job and we don't have any deaf clients, I'm choosing not to participate, causing my coworker to say that I'm creating a hostile work environment even though I haven't done anything wrong. Here's what's happening. I work in a small office with about 12 people in total who work there. 3 months ago, we hired someone who I will call Rachel, who's learning American Sign Language because her boyfriend is deaf. And when I heard this, I thought to myself, myself, oh, that's really cool. Good for her. Well, the problem is that Rachel decided that our entire office should communicate in sign language for practice, even though none of us know anyone who's deaf, except her boyfriend who doesn't even work here. And she's been really pushy about it. She even made this whole presentation to our boss about how it would be inclusive and a valuable skill if we all learned American Sign Language. Our boss, who always tries to keep everyone happy, agreed that we do Sign Language Fridays, where we try to use sign language as much as possible. I'm already learning Spanish for my job since we have clients who speak Spanish, meaning I don't really have time or an interest in learning a whole other language for literally no reason. So when I said I wasn't going to participate, Rachel got really offended. She said I was being ableist and discriminatory, which makes no sense because nobody in our office is deaf. She's learning it for her personal life. Like, why does that mean I have to learn it as well? And now she's sending me passive-aggressive messages in the group chat like, oh, some people clearly don't value communication accessibility, and has even complained to HR that I'm creating a hostile environment by not participating. So am I the jerk for refusing? Because this is honestly getting really weird. No, you're not the jerk. This is incredibly stupid. The fact that any coworker is like trying to force people into learning a different language just for fun, and then tries to act like you're discriminating against like people who are deaf just because you refuse to learn it, even though you have nobody that is deaf at your office, like that is a crazy jump in logic, and I just cannot believe that she's getting away with this. Like, your boss is an idiot. You're already learning Spanish for your job. Why should you also be forced to learn sign language if it's like, dude, I'm never going to use this? Like, if my job wants to pay for my sign language lessons, then sure, let's do it. But for Rachel and your boss to pretend like, oh, we're going to do this every Friday, like, that's dumb, and I also would never participate in that. So no, you're not the jerk. It's incredibly stupid the way she's acting, and I don't blame you for being pissed off, because the only person creating a hostile work environment in this situation is your boss and Rachel. An entitled Karen at a Pat concert really had the audacity to complain about me being in her personal space. So I decided to get some revenge by literally blocking her view of the band that was playing next, causing her to get really pissed off and me to feel incredibly satisfied, because this Karen was being annoying and she absolutely deserved to get shut down. Here's what happened. Okay, to set the scene, I was at a rock gig where it was standing room only on a Saturday night just before Christmas. There was easily over 1,000 people crowded into a small venue, so you can imagine that people will be pretty close to each other. After the support act had finished, my girlfriend spotted a place to lean against the sound deck area as her back was already hurting, so we headed over to the space. She was fine, but space was tight for me, so I was next to her but at an angle to the sound deck. Now there was room to the left of the couple next to us, and it was easy for them to take a step to the left without losing any view of the stage, but no, they were not gonna move. The next thing I know is I'm being prodded in my side several times. I thought this was my girlfriend at first, but in reality it was the Karen next to me. She said to me, "You're in my personal space." When she said this, I apologized and I tried to move a little bit and point out that there would be more room for her if they just moved to the left just a little bit. But when I said this, I might as well have said, "Hey, give me all your money," because all I got was a glare and some muttering. They chose not to move, and eventually someone else got in that gap. Well, once that happened, more snide comments followed. The main act is coming on stage, and a couple of guys work their way back from the bar. As they do, there's more space opening up directly in front of this Karen. Well, I thought to myself, okay, you wanted more personal space, here you go. I then moved directly in front of her into that space, which means this Karen now lost any decent view, which of course resulted in more comments, but thankfully the band's now drowning all of them out. And let me tell you something, the band was excellent. The Karen had tried to move forward and during any applause made sure to hit my arm, but it was honestly no bother to me. I came to the gig on an overcrowded train and drank in a bar full of Christmas idiots beforehand. I also traveled on the subway for 2 years, so a definition of personal space was usually trying to work out what deodorant brand someone was wearing with their armpit in your face. So this Karen's comments definitely didn't do anything to me, and I was happy to get in her way. Okay, I cannot understand how anyone in the right mind would go to a concert like that and then try to be like, wow, you're in my personal bubble, you need to move. It's like, bro, what in the world do you expect? Do you expect me to get out of the way and just be like, oh, sorry, ma'am, everybody clear out, make a 5-foot radius? It's like, no, we're gonna be literally like shoulder to shoulder, especially in a standing room only small venue. Like, what are we talking about? So honestly, I love this petty revenge. I love the fact that you got right up in front of her and practically blocked her entire view. Because if she had just been a little bit more reasonable and stepped a little bit over to the left, all of this could have been avoided. My entire life, I was forbidden from dating any guys. But now that I'm an adult, my parents suddenly expect me to get married and have lots of grandkids. And I'm honestly so frustrated with my upbringing that right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, this has always confused me as someone who grew up in a very traditional and old-fashioned Chinese family in an area with tons of other East Asian immigrants. My friends and cousins and I all have the exact same experience with our parents, and I have no clue where this comes from. My parents were very intense helicopter parents when my siblings and I were growing up. They always screamed at us to never speak to a person of the opposite gender, even at school. They forbade going to school dances because it was improper and we might risk interacting with boys. Even a mention of dating was out of the question. In fact, one time, my dad even screamed at my sister after she spoke to the guy who's gay, who's also our neighbor, for like 5 minutes out on the sidewalk near our house. My mother screamed when my sister has a bridesmaid for her college roommate simply because she'd be walking down the aisle next to a person of the male gender. Now, obviously, my parents are on the very extreme end of the spectrum, but I've observed this same exact irrational and bizarre expectation and attitude from so many of my Asian individuals growing up. Now, I'm sure it exists in many other cultures as well, but I've just had a few testimonials from my closest friends. They forbid dating, and then out of nowhere, one day they start screaming about, well, why aren't you married yet? And why don't you have grandkids? But where's this husband or wife supposed to come from? My sisters are now married, and funny enough, I turned out to be really asexual, and I don't actually have any interest in dating or marriage. And now, as you can probably guess, my parents are pressuring me to find a husband. I did date in college when I finally got away from them, but I realized I don't have any interest in it, and I don't like anyone that way. I've explained that their wish came true. I will not be talking to any boys, and they got super upset, saying, oh, I'm almost 30 and I need to find a husband soon. They are not satisfied with my sister's marriage either, because my first sister married a Korean man, so he's not Chinese, and my second sister married an ethnically Chinese man whose parents grew up in Vietnam, so they don't speak Mandarin. But where does this logic come from? My parents did not have arranged marriages. I mean, they hate each other and never get along. In fact, they met at work back in China and were both single and tired, so they just decided to get married to get it over with. How do they think that we have suddenly lined up a spouse already after years of not allowing socializing or dating? Why is it so common with immigrant parents? So honestly, does anyone else experience the same thing? It's honestly so strange and I don't understand their logic at all, because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, this is honestly baffling to me because this really does sound counterintuitive. First of all, I don't come from like an Asian household or anything like that, so I don't know exactly what this is like, but based on what you're describing, like this really does sound miserable. They simultaneously want you to never date or even talk to like someone of the opposite gender, but then at the same time, they expect you to get married before you're 30. But it's like, okay, well, which one is it? Is this secret spouse just supposed to like pop up out of nowhere and be like, hello, here I am? Because you're never gonna find anyone to marry if you don't get out there and date. Like that's literally part of the process. What is wrong with these people? So yeah, I don't know what that's like, but I'm sure it is not a fun experience because their expectations for you are so confusing and completely opposite of what they're actually saying. And that is incredibly unfair, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. Am I the jerk for telling my friend group that I'm not paying for the group gift anymore simply because they always choose expensive things that I cannot afford? Because right now they're saying that if I don't participate, then I'm out of the friend group. And now I really just don't know what to do because this feels incredibly unfair. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female and I'm part of a friend group of about 6 women. We've been friends ever since college, and for birthdays, we always do a group gift where we split the cost evenly. The problem is that most of our friends make way more money than me. I'm a teacher making about $42,000 a year. Meanwhile, they're in technology, finance, consulting, making easily 6 figures a year. When they pick group gifts, they always tend to spend about $500 total, which means it's roughly like up to $80 per person. Well, last month for one of our friends' birthday, who I will call Jessica, they wanted to get her a designer bag that was like $420, with my share being about $70. And while that is a lot for me, I went ahead and I just paid it. Then 2 weeks later, another friend who I will call Morgan had a birthday, and they wanted to do a spa package for $360, meaning that I had to cough up another $60 from me. But now that our other friend's birthday's coming up, they want to get her a $500 weekend at a fancy hotel, and they're asking me for about $83. Well, when they said this, I finally said, I can't keep doing this, it's too much money for me. When I said this, they got weird about it and said to me, it's only once every couple of months, saying that I'm being cheap. I tried to explain that my budget is different than theirs, and they said, well, you need to make sacrifices sacrifices for your friends. I then suggested we could set a lower budget, or I could give them like separate smaller gifts, but they said that defeats the purpose and makes people feel like they're not all equally important. They're now saying that if I don't contribute to group gifts, then I'm choosing not to participate in the friend group. So with that in mind, am I the jerk for backing out simply because it's too expensive? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, honestly, anybody acting like this and being like, oh yeah, you have to spend money if you want to be in our friend group, that for me would be like a giant red flag that I would refuse to ignore. I would just say to myself, okay, that's totally fine by me. I'm just not going to be a part of this anymore. Because holy crap, is that all this friend group is really about? Spending money and like doing all this extravagant stuff that, hey, one of the people in the group can't afford to do? I don't know about you, but that would really rub me the wrong way. And that would be like the perfect chance for me to be like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to find better friends than this. So no, you're not the jerk for backing out. If you literally can't afford it, then that's the end of the conversation. And the fact that they would try to force you into buying into that, in my opinion, is just completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother out of my house after he told my wife that she's lucky her parents died because now after the lawsuit, she's rich? Because after he said that, my wife and I were very stunned and very hurt. And I'm now wondering if we made the right decision by kicking him out of our house or if we should have done things just a little bit different. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, my wife lost both her parents in a car accident when she was 19 years old. The other driver was at fault and there was a wrongful death lawsuit. She was then awarded a significant amount of money, but obviously none of that matters to her because she would have given every penny back just to have her mom and dad here. We met a few years after everything happened and have been married for like 6 years now. We have 2 kids and we have a good life. She's smart with money and we've built something really stable together. We both work hard, but yeah, the settlement gave us a cushion most people just don't have. We don't flaunt it around and most people have no clue how much she actually has. But my family knows the basics. They know her parents passed away and that there was a lawsuit, but they don't know the details and we keep it that way on purpose. Last weekend, we had my parents and brother over for dinner. My brother was talking about how he and his girlfriend are trying to save up for a vacation, and my wife mentioned that we had been to the place they were looking at and said that they'd loved it. He then made a comment about how we probably stayed somewhere nicer than they could afford, but she said, well, actually, we kept it pretty simple. But then out of nowhere, he says, well, you could just pay for our trip since you've got all that money. I then told him that was completely out of line, but he just doubled down and said that she could probably send them for a month if she wanted to. My wife told him that was a big ask, and he snapped back and said that she has no idea how lucky she is to be rich and that he wishes he had that kind of money. Well, shortly after that, we kicked him out. And now with all things considered, I'm wondering if that was a mistake or not, or if I'm a jerk for doing that, because right now we're still very hurt and we're not sure what to do. Okay, this was completely uncalled for your brother to be acting like that, and the fact that he would even imply like, oh yeah, you're so lucky your parents are dead because now you're rich. Like, that is so insensitive and so stupid. This guy's a complete moron for even saying that in the first place. Like, what is going on? So no, you're not the jerk for kicking him out. I would definitely have done the exact same thing because that was out of line, and he definitely had no excuse to say that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.